Welcome back to Pigskin Over Pizza, the show where we talk about sports over a pizza and eventually rate the pizza. I am KCP, along with my co-host, Cal. Cal, how's it going?
Oh, this pizza looks incredible.
Oh, man, it sure does. This is Classics Pizza, amazing pizza place in Westerville, Ohio, I should say. They're all going to be Ohio, but I guess I'll still say it. Do you want to get straight into this and we can talk about the show coming back and everything? Because I know you're waiting to try it.
Oh, yeah. Let's just go.
All right. Feel free to get into it. I always get cheese. If you guys know me or have watched this before, about as picky as you can get. Cheese, light sauce, no shake. And sometimes I do what kids call dissecting. Open it up, make sure there's not any too craziness going on. Looks like they did it pretty perfectly though.
I just had a tiny corner. That was great.
We do it from 1 to 10. You can do decibels, so 9.8, 1.5, whatever you want. But we'll talk about sports and review at the end here.
Yeah.
So that way, because taste can kind of change over time and it could settle in. So we haven't done this show in, I think, 3 years now, which is insane to think about. And you can also tell it's somebody different, Cal instead of Derek. Derek said he might be back at some point, but Cal's our guy. Unless Derek wants to come back, and maybe by that point we'll have a 3-man show or something. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be great.
I was thinking I should have gave you a heads up since you've never been on here. If you want to start with listing your favorite sports and teams, and then we can get into each sport.
So my main 3 sports: basketball, football, and then baseball, I'd say, are my main 3 that I pay attention to. My football, love the Bengals, always have. I don't really know why. Like, I was just a 4-year-old, and I was like, I like Tigers, so I'm a Bengals fan. Never left, even through all the horrible years. And then some good, some mediocre.
Yeah.
But, yeah, just always been a Bengals fan. I like the Broncos a little bit as a kid, too, though, because of Jake Plummer.
I know them. I like them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jake the Snake.
Yeah, he was one of my favorite quarterbacks as a kid. And then when he left, it was just kind of all Bengals. And then Peyton Manning, I always liked Peyton Manning. So when Peyton Manning went to the Broncos, they weren't playing the Bengals, I would just root for Peyton Manning. Basketball, I love basketball. I watch it a lot. Probably every day I'm watching a basketball game. I'm a big Celtics fan. Love the Celtics. Always have loved the Celtics since 2008. Probably when I started watching basketball was 2008, so I was probably 9 or 10.
Okay.
We didn't have cable, though, so I could only watch the playoffs, pretty much, and the finals. The finals, I could watch every game, but I would just follow on the internet. Just love the Celtics, loved Rondo, loved Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, just that whole squad, which I'm going to talk about them a little bit later because I have some comparison things that I did with the current Celtics.
Okay.
So I'll hold off talking about that. And then
Yeah,
baseball,
gotcha.
I've liked baseball more going to games than watching on TV. I'm I wouldn't say big fan of any team, but I follow the Reds and the Orioles quite a bit. The Orioles because my grandma lives in Pennsylvania and Baltimore's like 2 hours away from her house, so we would always go to Orioles games. And when we would go, they had Manny Machado, Adam Jones, Zach Britton, a couple other guys that were really fun to watch, and they were actually a pretty good team. So I always loved going to those games. And my uncle was a big Yankees fan, so anytime the Yankees would play the Orioles, we would just go.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. So yeah, Orioles and Reds are my teams, and they're in separate conferences, so it kind of works out. They rarely play each other, and if they do, it's like one series a year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Then Ohio State for all college, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So football, definitely all Ohio State. Basketball, I follow the Bearcats quite a bit. Cincinnati Bearcats. And same with football. I follow the Bearcats also. So just kind of Cincinnati, but they never play. Ohio State and Cincinnati rarely play each other, so
Yeah.
just doesn't matter. Like I don't think they've played each other for years in either sport. Football, definitely more Buckeyes though.
As I say, in football, it's not really a game anyways, because Ohio State.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Ohio State would kill them.
Mm-hmm. Even those years, Cincinnati was finally good. It was a game at least, but it was not. It was clear who was going to win it.
Yeah, and even when Cincinnati made their college football playoff run, everyone knew they weren't going to win. It was more, would they stay competitive? And they did, but they just don't have the recruiting and stuff that teams like Bama and Georgia and Ohio State have.
No, for sure.
But they did get a lot of players from that team to go to the NFL, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
And then Luke Fickell, he's a great coach. So now they suck again. Like, they were really bad last year, and their coach was awful. Their players sucked. Like, I was like, okay, we're back to normal Cincinnati football.
Yeah.
But it's so dumb because they were so good, and then they just go to the Big 12, and now they suck again.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was thinking about relisting my teams because it's been so long. This is like another show now. Mm-hmm. But I think since I've already done that, it'll kind of come up naturally as we talk about each sport. I will say we're planning on doing this every other week, not every week like me and Derek were doing, and then kind of feeling it out, see if we want to decrease it or increase it, and then if we keep with it, increase it once football gets in full swing, because then basketball and hockey will be near as well. Postseason baseball will be there, so it'll be when it's really heating up.
Yeah.
And I think we've already reviewed classics, but since Cal wasn't on here, we're just going to kind of redo that as well. So my ratings might be different. It'll be interesting. Go back and look and see how different they are.
Yeah, since it's a different pizza.
Yeah.
It'll be better, worse.
Yeah. And I feel like I was worried about ranking pizzas too high, which I think is you should do, but I think I kind of overdid it because, like, classics, spoilers, is one of my favorite pizzas. So, but I feel like I was like, I can't give this too high. I don't remember what I gave it, but that's something I'm going to try and be better about. But if you want to get straight into it, we can.
Yeah, let's do it.
The date is April 9th. I should have said that just because it's relevant if this goes up late sometimes and it makes sense what we're talking about. It doesn't seem
something
like
else could happen in the sports world, or something crazy with his team.
Exactly.
Because sports, especially like basketball and hockey, they're every day.
Yeah.
And baseball too. These sports happen daily.
Yeah.
So there's like 1 day breaks sometimes, and then more stuff is happening.
You want to get straight into football?
Yeah, let's talk about some football. I can go first.
Yeah, feel free.
So we're in the off season. Sadly, every football off season is sad because it's over. But the Bengals made quite a few free agent moves that I kind of liked. Mm-hmm. They signed Geno Stone from the Ravens, who's a safety.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much you watched the Bengals last year, but their secondary was very frustrating.
Yeah.
Especially because the past couple years we've had Von Bell and Jesse Bates at the safety spots. And you could tell that the safeties weren't as good, like, immediately. And it's because they had 2 rookies back there. They had, I'm trying to think of his name. Well, they signed a guy from the Rams, which I hated the moment they signed him. Because after watching him for 2 games, I was like, oh, he's nothing like Von Bell and Jesse Bates. I can't think of his name either. But Jordan Battle and Dax Hill were the 2. Mm-hmm. Dax Hill was a second year. It was his second season, and then Jordan Battle was from Alabama. But, yeah, so they get Geno Stone, and then a couple of days later, they re-signed Von Bell. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. So they fixed the safety issue immediately, which it was really frustrating at times last year because they gave up a lot of big plays, which I wasn't used to with the past couple seasons because they were kind of a bend but don't break defense, and they gave up way too many big plays last year, I thought. Defense wasn't bad, but it wasn't the same. But some sad news is they lost DJ Reader, who is a defensive tackle. He went to the Lions. and I was really sad because if you don't like pay attention too much, you probably have no idea who he is, but he's one of the most underrated defensive tackles. He's so good at stopping the run, and the Bengals for some reason always suck at stopping the run. I feel like when they were really good in like 2011 to like 2015 with Andy Dalton and that team, the defense was amazing. Like a lot of people like point to Andy Dalton and AJ Green, but that defense was top 10 like every single year, and they could stop the run, and they were aggressive. And then after a couple guys left, they just sucked at stopping the run. Like anytime I feel like the Bengals suck, they can't stop the run. And I'm a little worried about that because he was a big part of that, and I think defensive line is a big weakness.
Yeah.
So him leaving hurts a lot. They did sign Sheldon Rankins, but he's not close to DJ Reader, so I'm hoping that's one of the things that they address in the draft. And then they signed Zach Moss, who's from Indianapolis, running back, because Joe Mixon is gone. Which is weird for me because Joe Mixon has been the running back forever. Like, I don't think there hasn't really been anybody else. I mean, before that there was, like, Giovanni Bernard was there, but like a consistent running back, the Bengals didn't really have that. So Joe Mixon has been the running back for 8 years. So, a little sad. I know he has his off-the-field issues, but he is talented. I think not last year, but the year before, he had his 5-touchdown game and 200 yards. That was a crazy game to watch. So I am sad, and I think the Texans, he's a good player. He's going to fit with the Texans quite a bit because they're building a pretty crazy offense.
Yeah, for sure.
Looks really good. So, yeah, Zach Moss is his replacement, and then they just re-signed some guys that were on the roster last year. No, like, big major signings. The one I really liked, though, was Tanner Hudson, which anyone who doesn't watch the Bengals is like, who the heck is that? But the Bengals' tight end room last year was not great, and this guy was on the practice squad, and I think he had like 350 yards, but he would make so many big catches, and I was like, they need to like sign him. Mm-hmm. So they did, and I was really happy about that. And then they signed Trent Brown, who's an offensive tackle. And the Bengals' offensive line has been an issue since like 2016. Yeah. And they keep spending money on it, but it never seems to get fixed because Joe Burrow's always getting hit. But I'm kind of hopeful. I mean, he played for the Patriots for a couple seasons. Yeah. He only missed like 4 games out of like 99, so hope he's good.
Yeah.
Well, other than that, they haven't done too much. I've been looking towards the draft, and I just kind of listed like 4 positions that I hope they draft because I think they're the biggest need. I really hope they get Brock Bowers. I know he's on their draft board. Mm-hmm. He might go earlier, though, so they might not be able to.
But where do they draft?
18th.
Yeah, I feel like he'll be gone by then, but
I've seen a lot of
they could trade up.
Yeah, I've seen some mock drafts where they draft him, but I think he's going to go earlier.
Yeah.
But I'm just hoping they get a tight end because they did sign like Mike Gesicki and some other guys, but it's more like that's like just patchworking a crew together and saying go play.
Yeah.
Like I want like an actual like good weapon because T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are probably leaving. So the next one that I'm hoping is wide receiver because if you lose T. Higgins and Boyd, then you have Jamar Chase, and that's about it. And then obviously offensive line and defensive line they need to figure out. I don't know. They probably don't need to draft too many offensive linemen, but they do need to draft a tackle because Jonah Williams left, and then they signed Trent Brown, but it's only a 1-year deal, so they need to probably draft another tackle. And then defensive line, interior defensive line mainly because they have Hubbard and Hendrickson on the outside. So, but yeah, that's my main hopes. And then punter because our punter sucks, and he's from Michigan. And I think he's definitely just playing for the Bengals as sabotage. And he's awful. He's one of the worst rated punters in the NFL. And I hated watching him kick because the Bengals had Kevin Huber for forever. And he was from Cincinnati. And he was a great punter. And then once he was gone, I was like, oh, this is awful. But it's really annoying because we had Drew Crispin, I think it was his name, but
Yeah,
he was from
Ohio
Ohio
State.
State. Yeah, and then we get Brad Robbins, and I'm like, who the heck is this guy? He's from Michigan, and he sucks. So yeah, I bet they'll keep him because it's only his second season, but he better get better. He better start kicking better because he was awful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's mainly my Bengals stuff.
Brock Bowers, what do you think? Do you think he's a lock to be like the next Travis Kelce, Rob Gronkowski, next like top tight end, or do you think? Because I think he has a potential, and I think that's odds are more likely that that's going to happen. But I have this bad feeling that there's also a chance that he could just be very average and not live up to this title he has.
Yeah, I have concerns, injury concerns, mostly because I think he missed quite a bit of games last year because of injury. So yeah, I'm not sure. I just with the Bengals, I feel like you need a tight end, and they had C.J. Uzama and Hayden Hurst, and then they were just 1 year deals, and then they kind of let them loose. So just consistency at that position would be nice. So he doesn't even have to be like a superstar, just a guy that can catch touchdowns. Really is what I would hope for. I'm not really expecting a Travis Kelce type of thing from him.
I feel like that's a lot of people's at least high expectations of him. I think if you're taking a tight end that high, they don't have to be Travis Kelce, but I think they have to be a top-tier tight end.
Kind of like Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
Kyle Pitts has not done much since he entered the league.
Yeah, and he is very similar. He's like a generational, whatever you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Generational
tight end.
Yes.
Like top in his generation.
Yeah, and he's definitely not bad, but not what he was billed to be.
I can also definitely see the problem with him as their coach, because the Falcons coach is bad, and he's the Steelers offensive coordinator now, so hoping that he makes them suck too. But he had too many good players in Atlanta for that offense to be as bad as it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe Kyle Pitts this year. Kirk Cousins is his quarterback. Maybe he'll finally kind of step it up.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's that time. It's like his third year, fourth year.
Third, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so I think he's got to prove himself.
All right. Well, I'll let you eat. I'll get into it a little bit here. Feel free to anything you remember or chime in if you want. This is I try to figure out where to even start with this because, like I said, we did podcasts consistently and haven't done one for like 3 years now. So I'm like, I can't cover 3 years worth of stuff and just talk for 4 hours.
Oh yeah.
So I try to pick and choose. We ironically never talked about, until we stopped doing podcasts by then, the Russell Wilson trade, which is literally made for our podcast, the Broncos and Seahawks, and the biggest trade in their team's histories, like together, I mean, not as a whole, but and we never discussed it. But you can go back and watch the older episodes before this trade happened. There was tons of rumors about the Broncos trading 2 to 3 first-round picks and players for Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, whoever it was, and I said at the time, I don't think any player is worth giving up that much for. Even people would disagree, I'm sure, especially now that he won a Super Bowl, but I think even the Matthew Stafford trade, I think people are starting to change it now. Jared Goff is so strong, but you can watch the podcast. I think it was the night the trade happened. I said how every single person I talked to was at work said that the Lions got absolutely robbed and they can't believe they got Matthew Stafford for that, and Jared Goff was a joke. And I was like, I feel like he's about as good as Matthew Stafford. And
yeah, that was always weird to me because Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can say, oh, he's carried by his coach, blah blah blah, but I think now he's proving otherwise.
Yeah.
So that trade definitely they weren't robbed.
Yeah. And I mean, the Rams got a Super Bowl out of it. So, like I said, I think the argument's harder now, but I even said then, obviously that's the end goal in the team, so I think it's hard to argue that it didn't work, at least for both teams. But I feel like even if you win a Super Bowl, if that destroys your next 5 years of potentially winning a Super Bowl, the Rams somehow have maintained it, to be fair. But in theory, that's not usually how it works.
Yeah, usually not. Usually you're going to give up those draft picks and then you're going to win a Super Bowl and then be bad. But I think with the Rams, they just have, one, a really good coach. And then I understand trading for Stafford because I always thought he could have won a Super Bowl if he was given the right situation. And Detroit was not going to do that with their current state of things before he left. So I really liked that trade, actually. I was like, that's a solid trade. Because I think the Rams' point of view was Jared Goff won't get us to the Super Bowl. Like, we have this team that's really good. Oh, he can get you there, but can he win it? And I think Stafford was a quarterback that could win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I think, like, a lot of teams, like, make these moves, like the Falcons getting Kirk Cousins. And I'm like, does that win you a title, though? Because there's only probably 10 quarterbacks in the league that are going to win you a title at any time. Sometimes less.
I guess this can kind of lead into what I was going to say next is that everybody talked to at that time was, it's funny to think about now, but everybody said how Broncos were just a quarterback away and that's all they needed. And they're like, well, if you can get Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or name the top quarterback, and you can, it doesn't matter what you give up, you get that. I'm like, no, it's because, well, for one, their offensive line was one of the weakest in the league, so it doesn't matter who's behind quarterback if you can't do anything about the offensive line. And I think that became very clear.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson was struggling back there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
And, like, even now Russell Wilson's gone, which he's at the Steelers now. Even last year, their defense was so bad at the beginning of the year, and then they, rattle off, like 6 in a row?
Yeah.
And then the team as a whole, like, I don't think they were bad, but they didn't help Russell Wilson out, and his stats were good last year. Like, top 10, I'm pretty sure. Like, touchdown,
a lot of categories,
ratio, and even yards. He was pretty up there. So it's not just a quarterback.
Yeah.
Some quarterbacks can elevate a team more, like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning. Like, I would say they all had great teams around them, but they're also just really good at football.
Oh, definitely.
Or like Joe Burrow. Like, Joe Burrow had one of the worst offensive lines, and somehow they made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And probably if the line was just a little bit better, they probably win the Super Bowl. So you don't need a perfect offensive line, but you need, like, average.
Yeah.
And Russell Wilson did not have that at
all. Yeah, so it's funny to think back on it because everybody makes fun of the Broncos now and makes fun of me for being like, see, you just shouldn't have done this trade, but it's the argument that I made and all of them. Everybody that I talked to told me I was nuts and you have to make that trade. I think that's my least favorite thing about sports is the reactionary nature of it and that people, I don't think they don't remember their own thoughts. I think they don't care to remember their own thoughts and be like, I feel like that's just as important as being right, being like, yeah, I thought that was going to happen, but I guess not. Or just admitting that what you thought was going to happen didn't happen. I feel like people don't do that in sports.
No.
And I think, so I wouldn't have made the Russell Wilson trade because I made that argument without knowing that trade was happening. I wouldn't have made that trade. I think once it happened, like I said, I can be fair, that I think I got more excited just because it was over with. And also, the Broncos gave up a single first-round pick, and I thought it was going to be 2 to 3. So I didn't think it was as they gave up more than that. But I'm saying there was rumors of a lot more, so I wasn't as taken back by that. And then I think I got caught up in the excitement of everybody just telling me nonstop how it's all they needed, and kind of started to believe it a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though, like I said, I literally made an argument against it. But that's what I'm saying. I feel like I can admit that I was kind of wrong in that. But I do think now that Russell Wilson's gone, I think it's a little overblown, the reaction people are having to it as well, that it was the worst move in NFL history. And that's coming from somebody, like I said, that I thought they shouldn't have made the trade.
Yeah.
Because they gave up a lot for him, and obviously it did not go even close to what it should have.
No playoff appearances, right?
No.
Not even. I mean, last year they were in the hunt and then kind of shut them down once they. I forget who they lost to. I think it was the Lions, but then they shut them down after that.
Yeah.
Because they would have had to have a miracle happen.
Yeah.
To even make the playoffs. So yeah, no playoff appearances, losing seasons every year.
Yep.
So, and
Yeah.
the contract they're paying him is insane too.
Oh no, it definitely is, and I think that's the worst part of it. But I think even that is not being exaggerated because definitely, like I said, it's bad. But I think as far as NFL history, I think it's a bit much. I just pulled up 2 trades. I could have tried to look for more, but for example, the Broncos in that trade, it sounds like they gave up a lot, but then you also have to listen to it. They got Russell Wilson and a 4th-round pick that they turned into. I can't remember how you pronounce this dude's name, which is not a good sign. Let's see here. I think it's Wazareke, I think. He's a defensive end, but he put up okay stats his rookie year, and then he was suspended all of last season for gambling.
Oh my god!
So not great there. But then the Seahawks got Drew Lock, which he did almost nothing for them, is not on the team anymore. Noah Fant, which he's been nothing more than what he was with the Broncos, and that's what his issue was. He was not bad, but he should be so much better the way he's built and everything. Yeah, so he's never gotten past that point, which was everybody's worried trading him. Shelby Harris, which didn't play more than a season with the Seahawks. Charles Cross, a cornerback with a 1st-round pick. I'm not gonna. Derek would know this better, so if he's watching, he can chime in here. He might be hating me right now, but stats-wise, he didn't look great. He's a cornerback and doesn't have an interception and didn't have a whole lot of great stats otherwise. Let's see.
Was Geno Smith on the Seahawks before they traded?
Yeah,
Wilson?
he was already there. Yeah, because I guess I'll get into that here in a minute. But yeah, he was already a Seahawks player at that point. He's just a backup.
Yeah, I mean, talking about like a big underdog, like, oh, this guy shouldn't be good, and then he was probably a top 15 quarterback.
Yeah.
Not last season, but the season before,
Mm-hmm.
which is crazy because everyone's like, oh, the Seahawks are going to suck, and then they're actually decent.
Yeah. They got Boy Mafe in the 2nd round, which he's probably the best player in all this. He has 9 sacks last year.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2nd-round pick, too.
Yeah. Tyreek Smith, and he's a 5th-round pick, and he's played for 3 teams already, and not the Seahawks anymore. Okay, so I gotta look up one thing on the fly here. All right, stick with me. Because I thought they gave up more than this, and this article might be wrong. So let me look this up really quick.
What's that so far? 3 picks?
Yeah, that's the 3 players and the 3 picks. Yeah.
Which it is a lot for one player.
Oh no, yeah, definitely.
Did the Broncos only get Russell Wilson?
And that 4th-round pick, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I thought they gave up a couple 1st-round picks. I'm trying to fact check that here because it said 1 pick, but I don't think that's right. Yeah, they got 2 1st-round picks because the second one was Devon Witherspoon, which he was 5th overall, and he had 79 tackles and interceptions rookie year, 3 sacks, so good.
Yeah.
Let's see. See, they're missing 2 players in this article, and that's why I thought they had it. With their 37th pick, 2nd round in that year, they took Derek Hall, which I don't know that name. Let's look it up for.
I think I know that name.
Yeah, I didn't want to diss him. I just didn't know the name. Started 17 games. No real stats to speak of, though. 38 tackles combined. No sacks, no interceptions. So, yeah, it's definitely – the Seahawks definitely won the trade. I'm not trying to feel like, yeah, I think it was a good trade. It was a bad trade. The contract makes it worse. But, I mean, besides Boy Mafe and Witherspoon, I mean, that's pretty much all there is. So I think it's a little overblown because if you look on the surface, everything the Broncos gave up, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, 2 fifth-round picks, all those players, you would think that would be like the Seahawks would be fucking blowing up over that, and they got 2 good players out of it.
And I would say you can even go at like records too, and like not going aside from the trade. Seahawks have made the playoffs since then, and Broncos have not.
Yeah.
So, because you would think like, okay, Russell Wilson is a good quarterback. They should at least make the playoffs, and they didn't do that. So
yeah.
I think just with that, you can say Seattle won the trade, and they did it without destroying their cap space too. So there's a lot of things you could factor in with Seattle won the trade.
Yeah.
The Broncos definitely lost the trade.
Yeah.
And now they don't even have the person they traded for, and they're still paying his contract. And now he's playing for Pittsburgh for like $1.5 million or something ridiculously low, and Broncos are starting to pay that. So that hurts.
Yeah, and like I said, I think they definitely won the trade. I think everybody's saying how the Broncos, the trade wasn't even the worst part. It was giving him the contract before he even played a game, which, like I said, I feel like people need to admit when they're wrong. I'll say when the trade happened, I said the trade made no sense unless you're going to sign him, because if you're giving up all that and he's gone in 2 years, then I think it makes trading more crazy. So I think in hindsight, it's real easy to be like, that. Why would you sign him to that?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lie. Like I said, I would have done the same if I was giving up all that. I think you do give him a big contract.
Got to lock him in.
Yeah. So
you're thinking, oh, he's going to potentially win us the Super Bowl is the idea. And you have to lock him in, because if it's a 1-year deal, you're not going to win a Super Bowl in 1 year unless you're like lucky.
Yeah.
Like you got to build a team, or like be building before that, and then maybe that's the last piece. But I think the Broncos had other issues that 1 year was not going to cut it. It had to be a long-term process.
Yeah, so that's why it really sucks now, and in hindsight, obviously it's beyond idiotic, but I think it's real easy to judge from hindsight, because like I said, if I was the GM, I think I wouldn't have made the trade, but if I did, I would have done that, because that's no point in giving all that up and then losing. Obviously, it's weird to talk about it because you're like, no, you're not losing it. You trade that away, you get rid of it as fast as you can, but you don't have the benefit of looking at what happened back then. But the 2 trades I pulled up, and I'm glad you talked about the Seahawks having success, because I think everybody talks about Geno Smith and how that wouldn't have happened. But, I mean, that definitely benefits the Seahawks, but I don't think that makes the Broncos part worse. I don't think that affects the Broncos trade. But even if we say it does, then I think this makes this trade even worse. The Deshaun Watson trade. Even aside from his appearing to be an absolute fucking terrible person and endless charges, let's even just separate that, which was insane. They gave up 3 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a fourth-round pick for Deshaun Watson. And the Texans drafted Kenron Green, Will Anderson Jr., pick to be determined this year in the first round, Tank Dell in the third round, and pick to be determined in the fourth round this year. And then they also turned some of those picks around, and let me get it here. I had all my notes lined up. Now I'm just scrolling endlessly. So let me go to my other one. Oh my god, I have so many different notes. It's like a wall of text.
You're looking for the next pick. Is that what you're looking for?
I was looking. Here we go. They this factors in. They made trades with those picks, so it actually ended up being. They have 9 players from that trade, and they still have a first round and a third round this year because they moved around pieces to get more players.
Oh man!
So, and then just to double down on that, if people say the Broncos overreacted about giving Russell Wilson that contract, the Browns gave Deshaun Watson the biggest contract and biggest guaranteed contract in NFL history, and $230 million fully guaranteed. So people are talking about the Broncos. It's
That's just as it's probably worse, and even more so because Watson's played 16 games for the Browns?
Yeah.
In 2 seasons?
Yeah, and they can't get out of the deal until 2027 at the earliest, and they would still everybody's talking about dead cap with the Broncos. They would still owe $137 million, and they'd have to pay $73 million of it by 2025, even if they released him.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, he's 8-4 as a starter, which our Browns fan will point to. But I think it's kind of missing the fact that he's not the reason for that, and they've been better without him.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, well, we're still winning, so it's a good trade. But I think they would probably be better off not having him and having Tank Dell and Will Anderson Jr. and these other 7 players and another first-round pick.
There, last year.
And in those 8 games, 12 starts, he's had completed 59% of his passes, 2,200 yards, 14 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 81. So he's not the reason they've won any of those games.
No.
And if you take him out of the equation, they have a whole lot more money to spend, and 9 players, 3 of those being very, very good players.
Yeah.
So I think that's easily worse.
And he's also an awful person.
Yeah.
On top of it. Russell Wilson's a weirdo, but he's not raping women and doing the stuff that Deshaun's doing. Who he could still be doing it because they kind of just swept it under the rug. And I just wouldn't have wanted him at all. I think it's funny that the Browns were like, let's go get him.
He was a big rumor with the Broncos. I think we talked about on the podcast. I was like, no way do I want that guy. I don't want him to make any kind of trade like that, but he'd be the last one I want.
Yeah, and even you look at Deshaun Watson, even when he was with the Texans, was he really that good? Was the question. He had some highlights and stuff, but the Texans weren't good. So I think it's weird that it's just they pay him that much. What are you expecting? Patrick Mahomes type numbers? Because he's not going to give it to you. He's not a top 15 quarterback probably in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he did have years where his stats were, I think, even top 10, but and they did make the playoffs, but they either never made it past a win in the playoffs or never even got it. Yeah, I don't think he got a win because I think I was joking about how he'd fit in perfect with the Browns.
Yeah.
And
the Texans got a win before the Browns did with Watson.
Yeah.
They won with C.J. Stroud against the Browns.
And
which is crazy.
Yeah. And those players the Browns helped him draft were a big part of that.
Yeah.
And I feel like he also didn't have, it was a year and a half between that of not playing as well. So even if he was good, I mean, he's going to go back to being good.
He was so rusty when he came back. He looked awful. I was like, this is going to turn out to be an awful trade for Cleveland. I thought immediately it would be, but when he came back, I was like, he looks bad.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing to try and be fair, aside from him being just a piece of shit, if we're judging just the trade and analysis. This is going off the fact that he's playing like this. Obviously, if there's a drastic turnaround, then that can make the trade different. But, it had to be crazy drastic to make a difference, not just that. I think even if he's okay, that still means they would have had all those assets instead of an okay quarterback that's probably holding them back.
Yeah.
And I guess I didn't even talk about this part of the Broncos, that I still would have kept Russell Wilson even this year because he was already signed. Which I guess I'm going to get into, but I was kind of covering the trade.
I think that's Sean Payton not wanting Russell Wilson from the start.
That's what I was going to say. I would have kept him, but I think the situation was just toxic. So I think if that's going to be the case, no matter how good he is, I think it's better to move on.
Yeah.
And that's why the Browns fans will say, well, he's still on our team. You guys are paying him. He's not even there. I'm like, well, if he's not going to play well, it's going to turn into something else. I think it's better to not have him, even if you're not going to pay him. So just because Deshaun Watson on a team, unless he drastically changes, if you're paying him for, what was it, 2027 at the earliest?
Yeah.
Just because he's on your team doesn't make it a good trade if he's not benefiting or making it. Yeah.
Like, he didn't even play in the playoff game. It was Joe Flacco from his couch coming in and basically saving the Browns' season, though, because their quarterback situation was not looking great. And Flacco came in and was throwing 300 yards a game and playing way better than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Like, Flacco was fun to watch last year. I don't know how much you watched when he started playing, but I was like, you know what? I hate the Browns, but it's Joe Flacco, and he's playing amazing and also winning a lot of bets for me, too. Because this is so off what you were saying, kind of. But with bets, I like to find a player that's, like, on fire and just keep going till they stop, basically.
Yeah.
I think Flacco probably won me like $700 just betting him to throw 2 touchdowns and 300 yards every game.
Yeah.
But he was fun to watch. Like, he was actually just slinging it down the field and looked like a pocket passing quarterback and was really good. And when you compare him to Deshaun Watson, Deshaun wasn't even close to that. This is a guy coming off his couch.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Flacco's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, so... But I don't even like when Flacco was like in his prime. I don't think he was doing what he was doing on Cleveland. So I just thought that was funny that Flacco was playing just so much better than Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Where like if you look at Russell Wilson, he was actually performing like to a top quarterback standard.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson hasn't done that at all.
Yeah. The other trade I would say, I think the argument you can make is there's not all the money tied to it, so it's not as bad. But the 49ers moving up 9 spots from 12 to 3 to draft Trey Lance and giving up 3 first-round picks and a third-round pick. And that one, the Dolphins, that was what the Dolphins I should have said. I say my notes all kinds of wrong up in here. Thought I had it already. The Dolphins turned that into, let's see here. Anything you want to say in the meantime while I'm stalling us?
I hope Joe Flacco does well this year.
Who did he end up signing with?
I don't actually remember. Let me find that while you're looking at that.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like I looked at too many different articles and then thought I had everything.
I was trying to think of some other awful trades. Did the Bears do a really bad trade for Khalil Mack? Or no, it was the Raiders that did that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They traded like a bunch of first rounders. Well, the Bears did do an awful trade though with or was it the Panthers? The Panthers did sometimes. The Bears and Panthers traded something and it was the Panthers trading DJ Moore.
Oh yeah.
That trade, and now the Bears have like their first round pick.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. Feel free to keep looking that up. I know I stalled us enough. So those picks, kind of like the Texans-Browns trade, the Dolphins ended up turning that into Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, Bradley Chubb, and Channing Tindall, and 2025 fifth-round pick for Trey Lance. So I think feel like I said, feel like people get stuck in the money, and that is important. But a quarterback that is not even close to relevant and has never been relevant, and you get most of the Dolphins' top assets right there.
Yeah.
Pretty much make up their team aside from Tua.
Oh, yeah. We can talk about Tua, too.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco's with the Colts.
The Colts, that's right.
But they're going to start Anthony Richardson and probably suck, and then they'll be like, hey, Flacco, Anthony Richardson sucks.
Oh, man. I don't know how much I want to stick on the Broncos. I want to make our podcast 5 hours. The main thing I want to talk about was the Russell Wilson thing, because like I said, it was crazy that we didn't discuss the biggest trade between those two teams in their history.
Oh, yeah.
The Broncos offseason, I can touch on it really quick. it's a bummer to think about, but also makes sense because of the dead cap. They released Justin Simmons, which is I think the best safety in the league and one of their best players in the last decade. Crazy enough, is not signed by anybody yet.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know his name too. He's good.
Yeah, he 2 seasons ago I think it was led the league in interceptions to the safety, which is insane.
There must be something like I feel like whenever a player's not signed, there's something else going on.
I know he's about as high character as you can get, and they speak really highly of him. I know the league. I think something's happened with safeties. Like there was the biggest dump in safety history in the NFL this year. So I don't know if it's just a trend of safeties aren't important or what. And
I think I know, which is weird because this is the opposite for the Bengals. The Bengals use like 3 safety packages and kind of put them in like that linebacker spot a lot. So it's kind of weird that a lot of teams are dumping them because the Bengals like stocked up on safeties.
Yeah.
So it might just be a scheme thing, and around the league it's just not as important anymore.
Yeah.
But I just found that's interesting.
Yeah. They got rid of Lloyd Cushenberry, which he's one of their good offensive linemen. I will say their offensive line, they finally at least did something last offseason where they put a lot of money into the offensive line. That's why I was so pissed for like 5 years because they didn't address it and then just kept replacing the quarterback.
Yeah.
Like it was the offensive line's fault. They did put a lot of money in the offensive line. They didn't look great this year, but I do think as the year went on, it got better. So I'm hoping that it was a chemistry thing and now they'll actually be good, which will suck now that Russell Wilson's not there and then maybe a quarterback comes in. Everybody's like, see, it was Russell Wilson. Then they traded Jerry Jeudy to the Browns, which I'm okay with. I mean, he has all the potential in the world, but he hasn't done it yet.
He has done nothing.
Yeah. And he's a drop machine and appears to have quite the attitude issue, so he'll be perfect for Cleveland. And then Cleveland gave him, what was it, like $40 million guaranteed with the contract extension, even though they had the biggest guaranteed contract in NFL history tied up right now. So
they're just passing them out. They're just like, here you go. You want money? You're an average player.
And ironically, before he played a game with the team, which is exactly what they did with Watson, what people make fun of with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, the one thing the Browns did do well, because I know we like to hate on them, but Amari Cooper, great receiver.
Yeah, everybody's saying it's going to happen with Jerry Jeudy, and like I say, he does have all the potential. He puts it together, but I think even if it does happen, it wasn't going to happen in that situation. So it doesn't mean it was a bad trade because it wasn't going to happen there. I think those were the biggest players they got rid of. There's a lot of other moves. They re-signed Brandon Jones as safety, which is definitely a drop from Justin Simmons, but you also weren't going to keep Justin Simmons with the situation you were in.
Yeah.
Signed Josh Reynolds, which I know everybody will point to the drops he had in the last game, the playoff game.
He's okay.
I was going to say, I think he's really good as not a top receiver, as a second, third. And I'm guessing his stats are probably better than Jerry Jeudy, and they got him.
I can confirm that for you.
Okay. I don't know. That's a guess.
I had Josh Reynolds on fantasy, which my fantasy team, we're not going to talk about it. It sucked. But he got some, some touchdowns and stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. Josh Reynolds. Let's see how good his stats were. If my phone loads. So he had 40 catches, 608 yards, averaged 15.2 a catch, and 5 touchdowns. I guarantee Jerry Jeudy's not even going to be close to that. Anytime I would watch the Broncos, I feel like Jerry Jeudy did absolutely nothing. It was always Cortland Sutton.
Yeah. Oh, he's definitely a better one.
Let's see, Jerry Jeudy. Oh, his stats were better. I'm wrong.
Oh, okay.
He had 54 catches, 758 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's not.
But only 2 touchdowns, so.
Yeah, it's not bad, but I mean, when he's a first-round pick and has such high expectations, I think it's what makes Josh Reynolds. I think that makes sense for a player like him. They're paying him way less, and so a little bit of drop-off, especially without the attitude issues. I think it's probably a good move.
Yeah, Josh Reynolds is has been in the league since 2017. He's just more a special teams guy probably than anything, and his best season was last year.
Yeah.
So,
the biggest thing going forward is obviously the quarterback situation. What's going to happen with the Broncos? I'm so glad they don't have the top pick because I think Caleb Williams is going to be a bust. I don't know about you, but
Yes, I agree with that.
I can't believe the Bears screwed over Justin Fields. And if Williams can't succeed, it's insane because they put a fucking crazy team around him now that Fields is gone. And when Fields was there, they just left him hang out to dry.
Oh yeah, I don't know if they just hated Justin Fields, but they were like, here's a trash can that you can throw to, and here's some garbage bags you can hand the ball off to. They didn't have a running back. They didn't have an offensive line. Their receivers sucked, and they were just like, Justin Fields, why aren't you winning?
Yeah.
I was like, this makes no sense. And their coach too, Matt Eberflus or whatever his name is, he sucks. He's terrible. And I'm like let me actually look at his record because it's not good.
No, feel free to do that. Yeah, I think Caleb Williams is going to be a massive bust. If he's not, I don't know if it's going to be worth all the drama anyways with him, even if he's good, unless he's what they think he's going to be, the next Patrick Mahomes or something. I don't think it's going to be worth all the nonsense. So I'm glad the Broncos don't have that pick.
So Matt Eberflus, his record, he's been their coach for 2 seasons. He's 10-24.
That's pretty good.
Needs to be said.
I think I hate to say it, but I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be the best quarterback in the draft, and that's coming from a Ohio State fan. But I think he's going to be the best. He seems to be not the exception. Just become a Ohio State fan doesn't mean it's true that the exception, but I think at least rarity of Michigan where he seems like a normal, decent person.
Yeah.
So I think that makes him more likable. I think he might go before the Broncos get him. I think he will, actually. My worry is that the Broncos are going to do exactly what I just talked about, what I talked about years ago, is that they're going to give up way too much to try and get one of these top quarterbacks. And even though I think he's the best quarterback in the draft, and even Williams, everybody thinking he's a lot to be a top-tier quarterback, it's just you're giving up so much for potential and for maybe something to work, and I just don't think it's worth moving up a handful of spots to draft a quarterback that could end up being the same as a quarterback that goes 12 or 30. And
yeah, it's always so weird with quarterbacks because they always hype them up, but you got some draft classes, all the quarterbacks that are taken suck.
Oh yeah.
Or like you get Joe Burrow's really good, but I'm trying to think who else was in his class. Justin Herbert, Tua. And I remember those are probably the top 3 from that class. But there are so many people like, oh, you got to take Tua over Burrow and stuff like that. And I never liked Tua in college. So I was really glad when the Bengals did draft Burrow. But if you look at those 3, Burrow's probably the best. And the other 2 have had decent careers so far. But not every – like Caleb Williams, he could suck. Be one of the worst quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
So it's always – hit or miss with those. It's usually the guy that's not talked about that is going to be probably better.
Yeah. If I was just picking without trades happening, just the players are at 12 where the Broncos draft, I would do J.J. McCarthy first. This is also based off of what I think the Broncos style of offense is, because I would take I would do J.J. McCarthy first, but then I would actually do Michael Penix Jr. next. But I think that's the same Russell Wilson situation. I don't think he wants Russell. I don't think he wants
a quarterback like that.
Yeah, so I think it'd just be a mistake. But for what they are doing, I think it'd be J.J. McCarthy, and then I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're not talking about the Broncos specific offense, I would go J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix Jr. I think that is a huge risk just because it's injuries.
Yeah.
That's, I think, the biggest concern if you're a perfect offense for him. Jalen Daniels.
I like Jalen Daniels quite a bit.
Yeah.
More than Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah, me too. And then I know you're down on him, and I don't know he's going to be good, but I'd say Bo Nix after that. And then,
yeah, I'm not a big Bo Nix guy.
Yeah.
I watched Oregon and USC, actually. I watched Caleb Williams and Bo Nix quite a bit because I work night shift, so I can always watch the 11 p.m. games, and it's great. But Bo Nix is just – it's always yards after catch with Oregon is what it was. It was never him actually throwing down the field. So that's my main concern with him, is can he actually consistently make deep throws?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest concern. Caleb Williams, I don't really like his personality.
Oh no, sucks ass.
I'm like, he's such a whiny like baby, and I just don't think he'll fit in the NFL. He can't be like that in the NFL. He can't be whiny, and I mean, maybe for the Bears he'll be perfect.
Or the Patriots, they used to have one of those.
Yeah, so
whiny ass quarterback.
But yeah, we'll see. I'm not high on Bo Nix, so
yeah, I mean,
and I could be wrong, but
yeah, like I said, I feel like it's not a crapshoot. There's obviously stuff that goes into this, but you've heard countless times the experts in the NFL say a person can't miss and end up being bust and vice versa. So, yeah, anything could happen. But even with mine, there's like 4 quarterbacks put ahead of him. I think after that, I think Jordan Travis and Spencer Rattler are both interesting, but I don't know.
They're kind of like a project quarterback that you hope is good in like 4 or 5 years.
Drake May, you might have seen I skipped over. I feel like he's primed to be like next Drew Lock. He has it all, but I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, and he played at North Carolina.
Yeah.
So it's kind of ACC is not a great conference for football.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure. I didn't watch a lot of ACC either, so I didn't watch a lot of Drake May, so I don't have a big opinion on him.
Yeah. I think
just get Kyle McCord.
I think this will be way later in the draft, but I think Joe Milton is really interesting. I don't know if you how much attention paid to him. He was at Michigan, I know, sad, but he played a little bit at Michigan and transferred to Tennessee, and he last year had 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and he also ran for 300 and scored 7 touchdowns. And the year before that, he only had 10 touchdowns but no interceptions, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Because everybody says a knock against him, he has a huge arm, but that's all he has. But I feel like if you have a huge arm, usually that means you're going to be throwing interceptions if you have no accuracy. So that seems odd that 5 interceptions in 2 years seems pretty good to me.
Yeah.
And he's also just – it doesn't make sense for a quarterback. He's 6'5", 236 pounds. And also has 300 yards rushing, so doesn't seem like somebody's just like a huge guy that just stands there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like something I could see him being like a 3rd, 4th round pick that ends up being something big. I think he'd be interesting.
And see where it goes. I really liked last year the Raiders got Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Played at Purdue for 4 years, I think. He was just a solid starter, and I think he actually played well.
Yeah.
When he actually got in.
I feel the Raiders going to draft quarterback too, so I think that's the issue. Where the Broncos picking 12 is like every fucking team ahead of them needs a quarterback, so
yeah,
that's why I'm worried they're going to overreact and make a huge trade up. But that's they need a quarterback, but
Jarrett Stidham is not the answer.
Yeah, oh no, definitely not. But as much as I would hate that, and I hope that's not their plan, if there's not a quarterback they don't want at 12 and all these top quarterbacks are going, I'd rather them, as much as I'd hate Jarrett Stidham play, I'd rather them trade back and gain assets and have to have a year with him and get a quarterback next year than to reach and give away their next 5 years of future just to potentially get a quarterback.
Yeah, and I think they could. There's probably some free agent out there that they could grab and just kind of compete with.
Yeah.
Stidham if they wanted to go that route. I know a lot of people don't like that route of, kind of a bridge quarterback, but I think it actually works sometimes.
Yeah, I know I talked to you a few days ago. If that's their plan, I think they probably should have jumped on it sooner because like all the quarterbacks are going. But I think the best one left, and I think gets too much hate, is Ryan Tannehill, which I think he was not good last year, but I think and there's a reason he's not signed. But I think in that situation, I don't think he could do much better.
Yeah, Stidham, Tannehill. I mean, it's kind of the same at this point, but Tannehill's had way more success.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where Andy Dalton is, but he's always out there.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he can start and perform decently.
Yeah.
I think he played for the Panthers last year, and I thought he played better than Bryce Young when Bryce Young was out there. So, I mean, there's guys like that you can go grab, and even if they don't start the whole season, you can just rotate them in and just build towards the future.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The last thing I'll say here, I didn't even touch on Russell Wilson with the Steelers, like you mentioned. I know a lot of people are hating on it, and it's easy because of Russell Wilson memes, which I haven't said on here. I know I said to you. You kind of alluded to how weird it is people hate Russell Wilson, but like Deshaun Watson, or don't hate him as much.
Yeah, but he gets a lot of hate for no reason.
But yeah, I think that says a lot about society that we hate on a guy because he's cringy and awkward more than a guy that, at minimum, seems like a rapist, if not a rapist. And like the actual definition of a weirdo, not a weirdo that does meme things.
Yeah, Russell Wilson has weird quirks when he talks and stuff. Watson's totally different.
Yeah. But unfortunately, as much as I hate the Steelers, I think they just fell into their laps. A quarterback that is very good in a team that was succeeding with some of the worst quarterback play we've seen. And
watching the Steelers, I told you this. Last week probably. It was terrible. They're like one of the worst teams in the league for 3 quarters, and then boom, they win again.
Yeah, and
they were sucking. Like they lost to like some really bad teams, and then were like 7-7, and then just win the last 3 with Mason Rudolph at quarterback.
Yeah,
and now they're in the playoffs, and they do this every single year where they come out and they suck, and then for some reason they flip a switch. They still suck, but then they win, and then they're in the playoffs again. Yeah,
with terrible quarterback play and also rotating quarterbacks, which is usually even more disastrous unless it's like a design thing where it's like a mobile and a throwing quarterback.
Yeah.
And that was not their situation. So I think getting a veteran quarterback that is out to prove something, and then getting somebody like Justin Fields that still has all potential in the world and no help around him up until now. I unfortunately think it's just set up perfect for the Steelers, and at almost no value to it. They got Russell Wilson for the minimum contract. They traded for Justin Fields for absolutely nothing.
Yeah, like a 4th rounder and a 6th rounder or something. It's ridiculous that they pulled that off. And now their entire quarterback room from last year is gone.
Yeah.
So they don't have to – they were like, oh, we know it's trash, so we're just going to get rid of it. But then they got Arthur Smith as their offensive coordinator, so we'll see how that goes. I really don't like Arthur Smith. He's bad.
Yeah.
He's a bad coach.
I know we've been on here for a while, but I figured football is probably the thing we're going to talk about the most. The Buckeyes, not going to go over everything here, but I feel like it's a real exciting season coming up with all the portal transitions and everything. I think it's
the most 5-star recruits out of everybody. I forget the exact number, but it's way more than Bama and these top schools. So Ohio State's coming.
All transfers on top of the amazing recruiting, and Michigan couldn't be any more opposite with all the talent they've lost. Their coaches all leaving, so it's all lined up.
Michigan might be a little bit rough this year, which perfectly okay with.
Oh yeah, fine by me. Karma.
And I mean, even with the Big Ten, they were getting all these other teams joining: Washington, Oregon,
USC.
No Caleb Williams. USC hasn't been really relevant since.
Oh no, yeah, even
with
him last year when they're a national championship contender, where they have 5 losses or something.
They were not great, and they would lose to teams they shouldn't lose to.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think Oregon State was better than USC, which is crazy. Oregon State's not good at football, and they were better than USC.
Yeah.
And then Washington was good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that Washington gets added because that'll add more competition, and I think even Oregon being added because that's just a cool team. I mean, it's going to be weird with the West Coast, traveling and all that stuff, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, I don't like the West Coast thing at all, not even just for I think there's going to be major issues with travel as far as sleep and everything and schedule for.
Especially for the Pac-12 teams that are coming over.
And it was always cool, even when they started adding Rutgers and Maryland, those kind of teams. I mean, it's near us, it's the East, but it was kind of cool when the Big Ten was the Midwest, and that cool graphic they have where I like jump from state to state. You can't really do that
Can't
now.
do that. Now
Yeah.
you're going across the entire United States.
And eventually I feel like you're just going to have to have 2 conferences in college football. It's getting ridiculous. It's going to be SEC and Big Ten.
Yeah, it's definitely leaning towards at least, I'd say 3 mega conferences, but it's been going that way for a while.
Well, if we're going to go that way, we better at least make Notre Dame join one of them instead of just letting them fucking go wild out there.
Yeah. And for some reason, anytime they do have conference, like during COVID, they were ACC, which made no sense.
Mm-hmm.
They're in Indiana, so why are they ACC? Some things just don't make sense. Like, I thought Cincinnati would be a better Big Ten than Big 12.
Yeah, we'll see about the new teams. I think definitely as like going forward, those will be huge programs, obviously, and are big names right now. But I don't know about. I'm not gonna act like I know the in and outs of these teams, but USC obviously lost a ton and lost their biggest piece, and they weren't great without them, or with them. I mean, it's funny you point out Washington because I think they might be the worst because they lost Michael Penix Jr. and what's his name, Ronan Dunze. So, and I'm sure other pieces. So I think they might actually be really bad this year. I think.
I mean, the Big Ten as a conference last year wasn't amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it was Ohio State and Michigan and maybe Penn State. I mean, Penn State was pretty good.
Yeah.
The other side sucked. The West.
Oh, definitely.
The West was awful. Every single team was like 8-5 or something like that.
Yeah, I think Oregon's probably going to be the best team this year from the new additions, even though they lost Bo Nix. I think they'll probably be the best team.
Yeah.
But obviously going forward, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
And then, like, with Penn State, too, they're going to win 10 games, and they're going to lose to Ohio State and Michigan. Well, maybe not Michigan this year, but Penn State's very consistent at being 10-2 or 9-3.
Yeah.
That's just where they're at.
They usually do lose to Michigan, sadly. This year, unless Michigan surprises, I think Penn State could beat them, but we'll see.
Yeah.
The only other thing I would touch on with football is the UFL.
Oh, yeah.
You're part of the Battlehawk crew now, right? Is that what he said?
I'd say so. AJ McCarron's on the Battlehawks, and I love AJ McCarron just because he almost won the Bengals a playoff game.
Yeah.
Almost was the key word. But, I like AJ McCarron a lot. I think he's a very humble person and, likable. So, definitely on the Battlehawks train as long as he's there. Otherwise, the other teams don't interest me at all. I don't really like any. Like Michigan Panthers, I was like, that's the most generic thing you could have came up with.
You're not a Memphis Showboats guy or a Houston Roughnecks guy?
No, not really.
No, I think those are two of the worst names.
The Showboats, gosh. It's just a boat, right? It's just the boat is the mascot. The Defenders, too, or that DC.
Yeah.
I think Ryan Sinnett is at one of those teams. He was signed by the Bengals in preseason. I actually liked him a lot, but they cut him. But I was watching, I don't know if he's on DC or the team that DC played this past weekend, but something to watch out for. I think he might have a little bit more potential.
Okay. Battlehawks are 1-1 right now. They lost their road opener in a just very sad way. It was cool, though, even though I like the Battlehawks. Jake Bates hit a 64-yard field goal.
Awesome, yeah.
And it was right down the middle. I was like, no question is going to hit it. And they iced him, so that kick didn't count. And they kicked it again, and it was a little less accurate, but still pretty damn accurate. And both the kicks probably would have made from 70 yards.
Yeah.
And just absolutely insane. And I know we talked about off the podcast that it's going to be insane if an NFL team doesn't give him a shot. I know people that are all about the NFL and think all these leagues are a joke would say they're playing against no competition, which is fair to a point, I think. But especially at kicking, I think it matters the least. Maybe they would have got a little more pressure on him. But generally, it's going to be the same exact kick.
For sure, yeah.
And he hit it 2 times, and we've seen how questionable some of the kicks can be in the NFL. Obviously, it would be a different story. I don't know how he did last game, if he goes out and misses every other field goal or can't hit a 30 or 40-yard field goal. But
who do you play for again?
Michigan, the Panthers.
Oh.
And they interviewed him afterwards, and it was just a cool moment, even though my team lost. I was like, can't even be mad. This is insane.
Yeah.
That's tied for the second longest kick in NFL history.
Yeah.
I was like, that is nuts.
Probably by Justin Tucker. That's what I'm assuming.
He has the record, and I think Matt Prater, Bronco, has the second longest. Let me look. So the longest kicks in NFL history, yeah, Justin Tucker, 66, Matt Prater, 64, and then, it's in NFL, but Jake Bates, 64. So next is 63 yards in the NFL.
Janikowski?
No.
Vinatieri?
Nope.
Robbie Gould?
Nope.
That's my guesses.
I'll reveal it to you.
Hey, yeah, I know that guy.
But they won last game, the home opener, and there was over 40,000 people in St. Louis for it, which is fucking awesome.
St. Louis has like the best fan base, it looks like, and
definitely.
tickets are also the most expensive.
Yeah. That's why the NFL should still be there.
Yeah.
But 40,000 is a record in the league and is better than when they came back in the XFL, which is insane to break that record when you could have a fan base that's like annoyed or doesn't trust you now.
Yeah, have you seen Michigan's crowds, though?
Yeah.
If you go to buy tickets, you can get like front row for like $20. And they only, like, St. Louis, I'm pretty sure almost all the sections are open except like the very top.
Yeah.
Michigan, they just have that bottom section.
Yeah, with the exception of St. Louis, I feel like they would have been smart to do it in MLS stadiums, because even if you get a bad crowd, it's going to look good in stadiums that hold like 20,000 people, not NFL stadiums that hold 60 to 80,000. And Columbus doesn't have a team. We have 2 soccer stadiums here that would sell out every game, if not close to it.
Yeah, definitely a football city.
Yeah,
for sure. I don't know. UFL's interesting to me. I've watched 2 games so far. Not full games either, like halves, but it's football. So.
Yeah, I like it.
I like the they don't have extra points in UFL.
Nope.
They just have the conversions. I like that quite a bit. And some of the other rules are interesting. They have like a super challenge. Have you seen that?
That must be new for the UFL. I don't think I've seen that.
They just added it. So basically you can challenge anything. Unless so the booth reviews it and it's like, that's a touchdown. You can't challenge that because that's already confirmed. But if there's a pass interference call you don't like, you can challenge that. So just some of the stuff, because some penalties are just ridiculous and they're stupid, and sometimes they miss stuff. So they're adding that in. The coach, you can also, I forget, I think it was DC's coach, but he threw the super challenge on a touchdown, and the guy's knee was clearly down. Definitely scored a touchdown in like the corner of the end zone, and the refs were like, because they let you hear what the refs say too.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we already confirmed it. You can't, like, you still want to challenge it? And he was like, oh wait, never mind. But so you can challenge pretty much anything. So I think that's cool. And then overtime, no ties in the UFL, which ties are one of the things I hate the most about the UFL.
Oh yeah, they suck.
They suck, and they keep shortening overtime so that it's 10 minutes, so that more teams can tie, it seems like.
Feel free to have more if you want.
And I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we didn't talk about the rule changes. Should we do that or wait till next episode?
Oh, we can wait. We've been talking about football for probably an hour.
Yeah. Move on to hockey. I figured we would also talk about any games we go to in each segment. The last game, like I said, I'd be covering years worth, so I'm just talking about the most recent, some of these. Went to Nationwide to watch the Blue Jackets play the Flyers. The Blue Jackets were underdogs and won 6-2.
Hey.
It was a really cool game.
Blue Jackets kind of suck this year. So.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun for that. They do suck this year, unfortunately. They're have 64 points in 78 games. That's not goals. That's like 64. You get
it's like a point if you win, right? Or
2 points if you win, yeah. And then a point if you lose in overtime. No points if you lose, obviously. Rough year. I think it's it looks a little worse than it really is because they've competed in so many games and they are the youngest team in the league. So they have all the talent in the world. It's just I think being patient to let it develop. And their coach is a first-year coach as well. So, yeah, I hope they're just patient with it. They also have the third most overtime losses in the league. So even if you flip half of those, which I don't think is unreasonable to flip half of them if you are competing well, that puts them in a playoff spot even just doing that. So
yeah, if you're getting to overtime enough and playing hard, it's gonna flip eventually.
Yeah,
because this is a cross-sport comparison, but the Lions were similar.
Yeah,
they were playing really tough and competing. Even the Bengals too. When Burrow's first year, they were losing a lot of one-touchdown games and stuff.
Yeah.
And then eventually, you get the experience and you know how to play in those late-game situations, and you start winning.
Yeah, so I hope that's what they do because they have the youngest team in the NFL or NHL. We were on football too long, and then they have the fourth highest-rated farm system. So even though they're a young team, that's not including the players that are in the NHL that's outside of the NHL, and they still have that many prospects. You would think being the youngest team in the league and having that many top prospects playing that would like drain the farm system, but they still have the number 4 ranked farm system.
Yeah.
So I just really hope they're patient with it. The coach they have now, I wouldn't have hired. He seems really likable. He seems super nice. I just don't think it was the right hire. He's been in the system with the Blue Jet, like they hired him internally. And I feel like they should have hired outside. I guess to give you a little background, they did hire somebody from the outside. His name's Mike Babcock. He's one of the most successful coaches in NHL history. But he had a lot of baggage. And they were hoping that was behind him. And I feel like things like that, unless it's extreme, people should get second chances. And they did, and before they fired him before the season even started because there was rumors that he was asking players to see their phones and he was taking them and looking at everything in there. But that was never verified, and some of the players heard the rumors, and like the captains came out and said that wasn't true. He just asked them if he could see pictures of their family to get to know them, and he showed them, like on your phone, he showed them.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to tell if people took advantage of knowing he was like that and didn't want to be in there because he knew he was a tough coach, like aside from weird things like that.
Yeah.
And like, well, I don't want this guy here, and I know an easy way to get him out of here. Or if that stuff was really happening. So I don't want to make a judgment too hard either way, because if he was doing like the actual taking people's phones and going through it, I would say that's a different story.
Yeah, that's definitely a flag.
Yeah. But like I said, I could also see that since other players spoke out and said that it was not what was being reported at all, I could see that other players not liking even just showing that and not wanting him to be the coach and being like, well, I know a prime way to get him out of here.
Yeah.
Which would suck, especially if somebody was actually changing how they are.
That just reminds me of, this is basketball, but the Celtics had a coach, Ime Udoka. I don't know if you remember the whole thing where he had a relationship with someone on the staff, but it sounded consensual too. So it was so weird that the Celtics just got rid of him like that.
Yeah.
Because you would think if it's a consensual relationship that it's fine, and she's an adult and he's an adult, but I think it's weird how coaches get pushed out for dumb things.
Yeah.
Because he was a good coach, and he was a tough coach too, like very tough on the Celtics players, and
that's definitely how Mike Babcock was. He's Stanley Cup winner and won a gold medal in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And could have been next Blue Jays coach. Like I said, that's just because he had those. If he was doing the actual weird stuff, I'm not like, well, he could have kept him successful, but yeah, if he wasn't doing that and actually was changing, that would suck that you got screwed over because people know your past.
Yeah.
So they hired Pascal Vincent, and he was assistant coach of the Blue Jackets for a few years. But he was interviewed to be the coach before they hired Mike Babcock. It wasn't like a panic thing, and there was a lot of rumors that they were going to hire him, and he interviewed with 3 other teams. So it's somebody that teams have been looking at, and the Blue Jackets are probably going to lose. Like we talked about, sports fans are very reactionary, and they're like, well, there's a reason nobody hired him. He obviously sucks. But we've seen how many NFL coaches that were interviewed and didn't get jobs and then won Super Bowls. And it's just because you're not hired doesn't mean you're not a good coach.
Yeah.
And this is kind of going back to, like I said, about being wrong or right. I wouldn't have hired him, but I get why they did in the situation because the season was getting into preseason. So I feel like it makes way more sense to hire somebody internally that understands the situation than hiring somebody from the outside again that's coming in as a season's starting. And since he's there now, everybody wants him gone. This is how it goes because they know whoever it's going to be, it doesn't matter. They can be better, which is not usually taking that look doesn't work out well.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is his first time ever coaching, and he seems to be level-headed and seems to have good tactics. That I hope the Blue Jackets are patient, just stick with him. If they're not good next year, I think that's fair. But
yeah.
I feel like unless there's like a clear top-tier candidate they can't pass up, I hope they keep him. But
it's kind of like, I mean, football. Certain teams do this. They're very reactionary to one season of a coach. But I think 3 should be the leash. Like if you're really bad the first year, that's okay. You're rebuilding. Kind of mediocre the second year, then you should start to see more improvement in the third year. And I'm glad the Bengals did this with Zach Taylor. They gave him time.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the roster when Zach Taylor took over, it was not good.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't watch the Blue Jackets that much, or I don't think I've watched a game this year, actually. Mm-hmm. But if you're a rebuilding team and a young coach who's never coached before, you should give them, I think, 3 seasons. I don't know if that's the same in hockey, but I think you need to give time before you just expect winning immediately.
Yeah, I'd say probably 2 seasons just because you have 82 games to work with, so I feel like you get a better understanding of it. And I think maybe even less if it's like a veteran coach in the right situation it's not working. But in this situation, I feel like a couple of years makes sense. So unfortunately, it puts the Blue Jackets in the draft lottery position again. They'd be number 4. It goes off of the lower you are, the higher you are, depending on how you want to look at it. The better percentage chance you get to get the first pick overall. The Blue Jackets have a 9.5% chance right now.
They do like a lottery thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the top 16 teams that miss the playoffs are in the lottery, but you can't move up more than 10 spots, so only the top 10 teams have a chance to actually the first pick. Okay. But I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy. Again, listen to all my podcasts. Cody's that guy. I'm the one that I think they're super interesting, but I believe almost none of them.
Yeah.
But I think there's been a lot of evidence the NHL draft NHL draft lottery could definitely be rigged. The Blue Jackets, unfortunately, as you probably know, not even being a big Blue Jackets fan, are consistently one of the worst teams, and they've never been given the first pick in the draft in their history of their team. And then they've moved up 1 spot in the history of the draft one time.
Oh my gosh.
And majority of the time have fallen back, not even stayed at the place of their draft. And the team that gets the first pick is usually an original 16 or a team that is facing some kind of issue like a stadium issue or they want them to be good again.
Yeah.
So last year, the Blue Jackets had the second best chance to get the first pick, and there's a team in front of them and a team behind them, and then the 4th team was the Blackhawks, and the Blackhawks ended up with the first pick overall, and they're the original 6 team, and they've been struggling, and my worry is now the Blackhawks are the 2nd worst team in the league, so exactly where the Blue Jackets were, so in theory, you think, I kind of see it from a mile away. And in theory, the Blue Jackets are in the exact position. They swap positions, so the Blue Jackets should get it. But I think now they're going to feel like, well, they're the 2nd worst team. Look at their percentage. Of course they're going to get it.
Yeah, I hate lotteries.
Yeah.
I hate it in the NBA, too, because I think the Cavs were in this situation a couple years ago where they could have got the first pick, or should have, and ended up getting like 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just stupid. Just where you finish in the season is where you draft.
Yeah.
There's no point in the let's spin a ball thing and you have a 25% chance or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, I think they even know that people are upset about it. They changed the rules finally last year. They can't get the first pick more than 2 times in a 5-year span. That's how ridiculous it was getting. That should not even be a thing. But
cover up the rig.
Unfortunately, Blackhawks got it last year, so they could conveniently enough get it this year too. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
There's Blue Jackets are playing tonight, not doing well, and then there's only 3 games left in the season after that. So by next time we do this, season might even be over, and might be talking about the lottery and all the interesting stuff going into it. That takes us to soccer, which I know you said you want to start by everything you know about soccer, right?
Yeah, I know nothing about soccer.
No, I just want to throw you under the bus there.
I used to not play on a team, but soccer I enjoy playing more than watching. It's a fun sport to play.
Oh, yeah, it is. Definitely.
I'm not good at it at all, but it was always fun to try to be good at it. Gym class, it was always one of my favorites, even though I sucked at it, but it was way better than some of the other crap they make you do in gym class. Like I don't know if you had to do this, but they had like a dancing section of gym class where you gotta like make a routine dance in a week. It was one of my least favorite things ever, and I thought it was such a waste of gym. I'm like, what is the point of this?
Yeah,
so
that's weird.
Yeah, soccer was definitely better than that.
So I'll mainly talk about the crew and the soccer portion, unless the World Cup's happening with the USA. But the crew have played 7 games. They've won 3, tied 3, the ties we hate, and lost once. So they've gotten a point in every game except one, so it's hard to argue with that. One win out being first in the league. To be fair, there is a bunch of teams vying for it right now, so they could easily fall back a huge amount, but one win could put them in first place in the entire league, and they won the championship last year and 3 seasons before that.
See, I knew that. I knew they won the championship.
Yeah.
I don't think, this is a fun fact for you, I don't think I've ever watched a complete soccer game.
Really? Yeah,
just a fun fact.
We need to get you to a crew game then, because like I said, not only was I not a soccer fan, I used to literally make fun of soccer, and then I went to it, and that's what changed me. Because
might not change my mind too much, but I would be willing to give it a shot.
All right. That's actually all I got for soccer right now. I'm not going to touch on it too much.
I think I know like 2 soccer players.
I'm guessing Messi's one of them.
Yep. Yeah. And Ronaldo.
Okay.
I think that's it.
I got you.
Not really. I played FIFA back in the day quite a bit.
You always played the crew, right?
No, I used to play with like England or something like that. Because my neighbor, he was from Ecuador and loves soccer, so anytime I would go to his house, we would play FIFA, and I was so bad at FIFA. Yeah,
I suck at it. I know the rules of soccer, but I'm not patient enough to do it in game. I play like hockey, where I kind of just go all in, and you have to be way more slow with it than that.
Yeah.
Want to get into baseball here? I feel like I've been yapping all over the place.
Let's talk about some baseball. I don't have a ton for baseball, but the Orioles are 6-4. They might have won today too. I actually need to check that. But when I made my notes, they're 6-4. On opening day, they beat the Angels, I think 11-3. So they beat the crap out of the Angels. And they did win today. So they won 7-1 against the Red Sox.
Oh, well, I'm not a Baltimore fan, but I'll be with you on that. I hate the Red Sox.
Yeah, I hate the Red Sox. So we can. They're a bunch of fun guys. Trevor likes them a lot. Let's see. So yeah, they're 6 and I want to say 7-4 now since they won today, but they didn't update it. Tied with the Red Sox.
Boo.
But the Orioles, they have a really young team and a lot of good players, and they're actually really exciting to watch. I don't know how much other teams you watch, but
I used to a lot more. Now I kind of see highlights or read stories mainly.
Yeah. So I mean, they have Ryan Mountcastle is one of my favorite players.
Mm-hmm.
He plays first base. Really like him. He's really good at hitting. He was on the Orioles like farm team for a while, and then finally got elevated when they were really bad. But then he was hitting like 250, and they kept him on the roster. And then they got like Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, and Austin Hayes, and Cedric Mullins, and they're definitely building in the right direction, which is fun to watch because some teams, like the Reds, seem to really struggle with building a team. So the Orioles they had a really good roster probably 10 years ago, maybe less, but they had decent teams and go to the playoffs often. Then they kind of bottomed out and traded everybody, and now you're starting to see them actually rebuild. Where I feel like the Reds, it's constantly 500 or right below it.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating because it's like the same issues every year too. Pitching typically is the problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Orioles are fun to watch. If you don't like have a team like for baseball and you're just watching baseball, I would definitely watch the Orioles just because they're that type of team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, season started. It's exciting. 10 games in. It's 162 games though, so
Yeah.
10 games don't mean a ton. Really, you got to get probably past the All-Star break till you're kind of seeing. I wouldn't even say that. Probably 40 games in, you see where teams are at.
Yeah, I agree with that. We were talking the way here, and I said I would say for the podcast, you were talking about how you don't think the early games really matter as long as you stay like under five or around 500. That's something that I've always felt differently about, and I think I seem being a minority in it. I feel like that's kind of like all a perspective thing, or I don't know the best way to say it, but because I feel like everybody, like the last 20 games this season, everybody's like, see, they need the magic number to get in the playoffs. They need this many wins. They can't lose this many times. But I feel like that's totally ignoring the fact that if they got 5 wins earlier in the season, or if they didn't lose, go on a 5-game losing streak, or whatever the number might be,
Yeah,
that makes those games in the season less important, and you don't need those, or more important, depending on how it went. So I feel like it's easy to do that because it's a long season. And yeah, I'm not saying a team's doomed if they struggle or if they start amazing. Like the Pirates are 9-1 or 9-2 now, and
9-3.
9-3. So they've already lost a couple, but they're off to such a hot start that I think that makes the rest of their season potentially easier. I don't think they're going to stick around. I think they're going to fall off. But I'm saying if it's a team that is going to compete, like you expect to compete, and you start off hot, I think that makes the rest of your season a lot easier, and that end of the season not as important. And I feel like that's what kind of tricks people thinking that only the end of the season matters, is because the rest of the season already happened.
Yeah, I can see that perspective. I think the beginning of the season, a lot of teams are still trying to find like who they are, like identity wise. So that's why you look at the standings right now, and so many teams are 6-4. But eventually, that's gonna change.
Yeah,
because teams are they're gonna start either getting on fire or they're gonna come down to earth. Like the Pirates, I think will come down to earth because I don't think the roster's that good. But you kind of just. I won't say the beginning of the season doesn't matter because that's false. It does matter, but I think it's okay to not perform as well at the beginning than in the middle and the end, because you're still trying to find your team, especially if you're a young team.
Yeah, I don't think you're doomed if you start off bad, or I don't think you're a lock for the playoffs if you start out well. But I think and I'm not even saying because of you, I think it's a pretty normal stance. I think
it is, yeah.
To feel that way, but I feel like it's undervalued. I think I get what you're saying. I do think that makes sense, that it may take some time to settle in, good or bad, but I think that makes they're just as important in the long term, like at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I mean, you don't want to go like the Marlins are 1-10. You don't want to be 1-10 in your first 11. But if you're 5-5, 6-5, you're still in position to make the playoffs because everyone's around that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of separating yourself at some point, I think. Because so many teams are going to go on like a 10, not so many, but the really good teams are going to win like 10 straight.
Yeah.
And they're going to start separating from those mid-tier and the bottom teams in the league.
Yeah.
Like the Yankees right now are 9-2, which I hate the Yankees, but
Yeah, me too.
they're 9-2, and Pirates are 9-3, but the Dodgers are 9-4, and you would say probably Dodgers and Yankees are top picks for the World Series probably every year.
Mm-hmm.
So them performing well isn't surprising.
Yeah.
But the Pirates, that's a surprise.
No, definitely.
But they were the same last year. They were winning
Yeah.
so many games at the beginning of the season, and then they kind of got to 500, and then so slowly started dropping more games.
Yeah.
So it's a long season.
Yeah, no, definitely. We went to a Reds game on Friday. They lost 3-2, sadly, to the Mets.
To the 4-6 Mets.
Yep. And at that point, what were they, 2-4, I think?
Yeah, 2-4.
Yeah.
They had one win.
Oh, was it? Yeah, because that would have been their second.
Yeah.
So pretty sad. It was still a really good, like, actually entertaining game.
It was, yeah. It was a good game. I think the final box score, the Reds left 13 on base, and they just couldn't hit anybody in when they got people on base, and that was probably the biggest thing. And then they had that one inning where the reliever just walked every single batter, and
it was sad.
Everyone in the stadium was pissed and was like, "Get him out of there! He sucks!" And everyone's just realizing that this guy's awful, and they could not recover after that.
Yeah,
because it was 2-1, I think.
Yeah, 2-1.
1-0,
yeah,
and then they scored 2. And I was like, "Oh, it's fine. It's a one-run game." But then I think they scored another run in the 8th, and it was like, okay, it's probably over.
Yeah, and the Reds got another one back and looked like they might actually do it, but didn't pull it off.
Yeah.
I did tell you about a funny encounter in the bathroom that I had with a Mets fan.
Yeah.
About as traditional New York as you can get, the accent and everything. And he was talking to his other Mets friend, and he said, imagine the accent. I don't want to butcher it. Not that there's much to butcher. But he said, what the fuck's wrong with Ohio? And he said, do they not believe in water pressure? And I was like, that is a crazy thing to insult and make fun of a state over. I was like, I don't think I'd even comprehend or process that if I was in New York and their water pressure sucked. I don't think I would even think to talk trash about that.
What's wrong with the water pressure?
The Reds are now 6-5 after losing tonight. They lost, sadly.
To the Brewers.
Yep.
9-5 though.
I know. And they were the favorite to win.
Way too many runs. It's the same issue. I told you this in the car when we were talking earlier. Seems like the pitching is still a problem.
Yeah, it's definitely inconsistent. They have at least some of the talent there, but not consistently enough. And I don't want to jinx it, but we haven't had great luck with injuries already, and then also major suspensions. So
yeah,
I hope this isn't a trend that keeps happening, because this seems like there might finally be not the Reds' year to lock for the World Series, but the Reds' year for a successful season.
Yeah.
And I'm usually overly optimistic about my teams. My friends make fun of me for being unrealistic about my team, but it's usually I'm hopeful, not arrogant or anything. I don't want to just be bummed out all the time. Mm-hmm. But even with me being that way, I thought the Reds they're kind of like the Blue Jackets. They're so young that I think they have the potential. And last year, I think they kind of overperformed for what you thought, for how young they were.
Yeah.
So this year, I thought maybe they'd be a little better, but a lot of people are projecting them even higher than I was, winning the division. A lot of people said it's a lock for the division. So, man, I hope you're right, because even with me being optimistic, I feel like I have lower expectations.
Yeah. I don't know what my expectations are, because I've heard this before about Reds teams where it's they have the potential and all this, but I haven't seen it yet ever since I really started following the Reds. So I just don't know. I don't I just kind of, if they're good, they're good. If they're bad, I'll just keep watching because they have talent to watch that's exciting, like De La Cruz and India and all these guys that are young players that are fun to watch. So
I was just say that's the potential I have seen players like that and Steer and McLean before he got a long-term injury. We'll see what happens to him.
Yeah, Benson and those guys. I really like Spencer Steer.
I think. I think Hunter Green's about the definition of that. He has all the talent in the world, but he's making these mistakes or being inconsistent.
He was good though on Friday when we saw him.
Yeah, he started losing control too, though. That's his. He can strike out like crazy, has all the pitches you need, but once he starts losing control is when he can fall apart. I mean, you should still win a game when you give up that few runs, but I'm saying as far as performance kind of started dropping off.
Yeah, because I don't think he gave up, 2 runs?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. That you should win by that.
No, maybe even just 1 run. Yeah, because they scored 1 in the 5th, and then let me actually see what is. Yeah, just one earned run for Hunter Green. And even like 3-2, like you just couldn't push across.
I know
2 more runs. It's kind of ridiculous because then a couple of days later they're scoring 10 runs and against Milwaukee too, which is they usually have really good pitchers.
Yeah,
on the Brewers.
I think it was actually Trevor was on a special show when all the rule changes were coming to MLB. The pitch clock, the change to the extra innings about having somebody start on second base.
Yep.
The designated hitter in the NL, well, league-wide because it's already in the AL. I feel like me and him had totally different views. I think you're more in line with him because you said you're a big fan about how fast the game is now.
I have mixed opinions on that.
Okay.
So sitting at home, fine with it being 2 hours. In the actual ballpark, I hate it because then I don't feel like I have enough time to like go to the bathroom and like I don't want to miss anything. So I'm like, okay, when can I? It's mainly that. It's just if I'm gone for 5 minutes, I'm missing half an inning.
Yeah.
And I think that's my biggest negative towards that. Just the pitch clock rule in general.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was against pretty much all of the rule changes when we talked about it. Mm-hmm. The pitch clock, I feel like, trying to remember what I would have said at the time, but I just thought they were trying to do all these rule changes to speed it up and get casual fans in, but I feel like I don't know how many casual fans you're going to gain if your game's an hour or less, even if you're not going to entire hour off, opposed to how many old-time fans you're going to lose by changing a game that's been the same forever. The designated hitter, I definitely understand that one. They want the more scoring. They don't want this slow thing of trying to pitch around the hitter to get to the pitcher. But I think it also totally takes away the factor that baseball used to have, like the scare tactic of if you're going to throw it at somebody, you know that you're going to be up there standing next to them, so you better plan for that. And the tactic alone of, I thought it was always interesting, like trying to pitch around to get to a pitcher, and then the pitcher ended up being successful. And
home runs.
Yeah. And I thought that whole thing was taken away. I feel like they're making so many changes to increase scoring as it was. And then the one I hated the most was, I think the one that people are most positive on is the extra innings rule, because I thought that's what made baseball so exciting. It was the only sport that you don't know the ending. It could just go on forever, and in theory it still could, but I mean,
it's less likely now.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to. The game second will come in here soon. The first game I ever took Danielle to was the second longest game in Reds history, and so we were pretty fresh into dating, and I feel like a lot of people would have wanted to leave, but that was one of my most fun experiences being there. And
basically for 2 games.
Yeah, it was fucking awesome. And I loved it, and that's obviously an extreme case. I get not everybody's gonna want to do that, but that's was memorable because that's not normal. Most still ended within a few innings, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that way more. Thinking back on it, trying to judge things fairly, I still totally hate the overtime rule or the extra innings rule. Not a fan of that at all. I get the increased excitement, but I don't think it's worth what you lose.
It's definitely easier to win a game.
Yeah.
With someone starting on second.
Yeah. The designated hitter rule, I still prefer it the other way around. I do think it was always weird the American League didn't do that. I thought that was weird to have like you're playing two different games. But I thought it was interesting when you did interleague play. I thought that also made it more interesting that the opposite team would do it at their home.
Yeah. So then pitchers had to hit.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Which benefited certain pitchers.
Yeah.
Like Shohei.
But yeah, that one I'm not as strong about. I still prefer it that way, but I don't think it's made as big a difference. I think if you're increasing scoring, that would be a way of doing it opposed to the extra innings. And then the pitch clock, I actually changed my mind about till recently. I was like, well, to be honest, that doesn't really bother me. Have you seen the increase in all these pitchers getting injured and a lot of aces getting injured?
Yeah.
They don't know exactly why, but they're thinking one of the lead things they expect is a pitch clock because they're rushing to do it and not going like through their full range of motion and mechanics. So
You
even
have to rush.
Yeah.
between pitches.
So
I could see that. I played baseball in high school and I did pitch. I would take my good old time on the mound between pitches because it also like you can mess the batter's timing up. Stuff too. I would hate to be rushed. I think it'd be awful. It would definitely make me not pitch correctly. So I could definitely see that factoring into arm injuries and stuff like that.
yeah, so I think that's something. Even if they want pitch clock, I think they're going to. It sounds extreme, but double it or something. It's not. I don't think it's worth for a second to decrease the length of game and have top pitchers go out. That's the main reason people go to games is to see top players. So if they're not going to be there, but the game's shorter, and if they're really going to say all these sports claim how much they care about player safety, but if you're not willing to do that because you want the game faster, then I don't think you care about safety too much.
Yeah.
So, like I said, even something that I did come around on is like, yeah, this one really doesn't bother me. It seems like there might be issues that I didn't expect. That
I would not expect that at all. But
yeah,
thinking about it, I could see how. Does the clock stop as soon as you get in your pitching motion, or does it like?
No, I think it keeps going.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think. Or you mean does it reset once you pitch it?
You start pitching, like, so if I go down to the 1 second, that's fine. As long as it doesn't hit 0, I'm not getting penalized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if like you had to like be in your full, like not at the start of the pitch, but when the pitch is released, that's when it had to be 1. If that makes sense. Versus,
Yeah.
But
I think so. Trevor will probably.
Once your wind up starts, I feel like it should stop, and I think that is how it is. But
Yeah.
Because they did shorten it too this season, the clock.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could definitely see it.
Yeah.
People.
So hopefully it's something to look at. Like I said, they don't know for sure, but it is an extreme amount of pitchers getting injured opposed to even last season, and a lot of top pitchers on top of that. So I think it's definitely
the game worse if you don't have pitchers.
Especially when you're doing everything you can to make scoring heavy.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be hitting off of pitchers aren't top tiers.
Yeah, the bases are bigger and the run lanes are bigger, and basically anything they can to give the hitters benefits they are, which is really stupid.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing about like baseball is it's so hard to hit a baseball.
Oh yeah.
Making it easier to score is just dumb. That's the fun thing about baseball is it could be 1-0 or 3-2 and stuff like that. I don't really like the 14-7 baseball games. That's not really my favorite. If it is a little high scoring, like 8-6 or something, that's fine. But these like 15-10 games and stuff like that, I'm not a big fan of.
I was say I love those, but that's because those were usually exceptions,
rare.
And that's why they're so cool. Not
it's just so common now.
Yeah. The only other thing I have on baseball is I hate Oakland maybe more than anyone. I don't like Golden State. I know they don't play there anymore. They abandoned them. The Raiders are one of my most hated teams. I don't like the A's. But I think it's criminal what's happening. I think the Raiders should definitely be in Oakland. I think Las Vegas is a joke of a sports city. I think it's all going to come crashing down when they're not the hot new teams, and most of them have been successful there. I think we've already seen a team like the Raiders that have struggled, that a lot of fans have been away fans. I think as soon as these teams aren't the top things, it's going to be a whole different market there.
Yeah.
I think cities, teams, leagues should do everything they can to keep a team in a city. I do think if you exhausted all measures and nothing's successful, I think that's different. Like I know you said they should have kept a team in San Diego for football. I think it wasn't just the Broncos. That seemed to be a normal thing in San Diego. The majority of the fans were away fans. Their stadium was outdated. I think they tried to keep them there.
Yeah.
But like St. Louis, I don't think they should have ever lost a team. If you're going to take the Chargers away, I think you didn't need two teams in L.A. It could have been one in L.A., one in St. Louis.
Yeah, and like L.A., even the Rams and both Rams and Chargers don't get a ton of fans.
No. Yeah, the Rams don't get a lot, and they're one of the most successful teams. That's probably the only reason they're getting some, because the same city has another team and nobody cares about them, the Chargers.
At all.
Yeah.
I never meet Chargers fans.
Yeah. So I can see both sides, because I do think they should do everything they can, but I do think there's a point where you have to do it, and that's why I think that would happen to Chargers. I think it sucks because they definitely had fans. I think it sucks for those fans, but I think you can only go so far with it. I think it eventually has to happen if it's not going to succeed.
Yeah.
The A's, I think somewhere falls in the middle of that, but I think it's definitely getting swayed to one side because everybody shared the last few years of their attendance and what's happened, but doesn't take into account how the league and the cities have been trying to do everything they can to take the team away. So why are people going to want to show up?
Yeah.
I don't blame.
They're pretty bad.
Yeah.
Recently. Like, they're one of the worst teams in baseball.
Yeah, and then all their fans know that it's not really their team, so why the hell would you want to go support a team? So,
yeah.
And then, unfortunately, it feeds into the narrative because they're like, see, nobody cares about it. There are like 5,000 people here. But I pulled up something because I felt like the A's used to have good attendance, not great. Throughout their history, they've averaged about 25,000, which isn't great, but is not terrible for baseball. And their highest attendance was 35,000 in 1990, which is a long time ago. But the reason I pulled that up is Tampa Bay, which they gave them a brand new stadium, and you would think they're like the most successful franchise in the league, has been out under them in attendance almost every year except these last few years, which, like I said, I don't think you can really compare because it's been a drastic drop-off.
Oh, yeah.
Their highest attendance in team history was their first year at 30,000. And then after that's 23,000. There's only 3 seasons that's 23,000. Everything under that is under 20,000. And there's a year that was actually 2021. There's 9,000. Year before that, 13,000, 13,000. So I think it's a little disingenuous to talk about the attendance with the A's and what's happened with them.
Yeah.
I think it's real fucked up that they were a major sports city and now they're going to be left with no teams, as much as I hate them.
It's messed up, for sure. They're moving to Sacramento, right? Is that what's happening?
I mean, it's a lot to go to Las Vegas, so they're moving there because Oakland doesn't want them anymore because they're not their team, so I don't blame them. So, yeah, they said they can't play there anymore, and they're moving to Sacramento for 3 years and then going to Las Vegas.
Oh, my gosh. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird with the Las Vegas thing because it's a gambling city.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're not a sports town. Like,
yeah, that's
or a sports city, I should say. But
yeah,
it's so strange because the NBA is kind of pushing to expand and put a team in Las Vegas, which I don't think should be the first choice. I think Seattle should get a team first, and there's other places that had teams before, like Seattle, that would support a fan base over Vegas. So I think it's weird that all these sports are just pushing towards Vegas.
Yeah. So I was looking at the A's more. They never, since 1985, they've never had a season that had under 10,000 people on average until, what year was this? The hell, the dot got all messed up. There we go. Until 2020, which would have been the COVID year. That's the reason. So before that year, they averaged 20,000. They averaged no fans the next year, obviously. 8,000, 9,000, 10,000, and 6,000. So I think it's pretty clear why there's a drastic drop-off there.
Yeah.
Because that's right around when they started talking about it. And then this report came out, and part of the reason I put it in there, that the difference between what Oakland offered and what the A's wanted was about $35 million or so over 3 years. And so $35 million kept them separated from keeping a team in Oakland, which is, for a multi-billion-dollar industry in a city that has supported a team for decades, you're going to lose it over a $35 million argument because you want to fucking go to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't like how unloyal sports teams can be to cities, and they try to do that with the Crews. So I think as much as I hate teams, I try and think about not just be like, well, I hate the Raiders, so fuck them. That's funny. I try and think about it from my perspective. I'm like, that fucking blows. And the same thing was happening with the Crew. They were doing everything they could to try and can it. So then obviously a lot of people turned against the Crew and didn't want to go and didn't want to support the team because they knew they were leaving. And I totally understand that stance, because when the league's doing everything they can to make you not go, and then they use that to their advantage to be like, look, nobody's going to the games, when they're trying to do everything they can to get you not to go to the games.
Yeah.
I feel like it kind of fuels a false argument there. Because I think it's easy to look at the A's stadium and make fun of it, but I think that's not the whole story there.
No. And are they going to be called the A's in Sacramento?
Yep.
Sacramento A's?
Yeah, people are making fun of it. The Oakland A's of Sacramento to Las Vegas. I was like, that is...
Oh, my gosh. And the A's is such a terrible name, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're the Athletics. What does that...
Yeah.
What does that mean? You just run? Like I'm so confused what their mascot even is. Do they even have a mascot?
Not that I know of.
So it's not really a team you can get excited about in general, because what the heck does A stand? The Oakland A's. I don't know. It's one of those teams where they could definitely get rid of it and replace it with something better. And now they're just moving it to Las Vegas. The same Las Vegas A's. Okay. It's not a team to be excited about. It's not a cool name like the Wolf Pack, or just something, an animal, something cool. It's just the A's.
I just had a terrible thought. I feel like they're going to rebrand them to the Las Vegas Aces to go along with the gambling thing, and because still can be the A's. Yeah.
The Aces. Oh my gosh. I hope not. I hope you're wrong.
Oh yeah. Oh, me too.
But I could definitely see that happening. So I don't know. It's just a weird baseball team that I don't care about really that much. I understand like taking them from Oakland is bad for that city because now they have nothing. But I don't really think they were a major part of baseball in general, though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think about them. Like, there's teams that have, like, a history that you're always going to think about, like the Dodgers or Yankees or teams like that. The Braves are decent. Like, just teams that what have the A's done for the MLB, I guess?
They created one of the best sports movies, Moneyball.
Oh, yeah. That is a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I feel like the Rays, or even though I'm a secondary Marlins fan, I feel like
they got it rough over there.
Yeah, they haven't. I mean, they've had success, but relative to the business, they haven't done shit, and they get new stadiums when they weren't getting anybody in the stadiums in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm like, this, I don't know, this all seems backwards to me.
Yeah. I don't know, there's an argument for all the sides, I feel like, with this whole situation.
Yeah.
Moving to Vegas doesn't make sense, though. I do agree with that.
Yeah. I didn't even mention the Crew are in a tournament game right now. There's a lot of weird shit in soccer. Wouldn't even be again to explain it, but they just tied it, so 1-1 right now. We'll see what happens there. Moving to volleyball, you said you had input here.
Volleyball, it's a good sport. I don't hate volleyball.
No, I know.
Olympics, definitely beach volleyball. It's a good time. It's one of the most. I can't even speak right now. It's one of my most watched Olympic sports. Is beach volleyball.
The Pro Volleyball Federation, first pro.
Are they actually called that?
Yeah.
Oh my god. the pro volleyball federation.
First pro volleyball league in America, women's volleyball. I won't lie, one of my main appeals of going to it was women's volleyball. I didn't know anything beyond literally the most base knowledge of volleyball going into it. And going into it definitely lived up to those expectations, but it actually surprised me that I really enjoyed it outside of that and made me a fan of it. The Columbus Fury is our team. They started off hot, but now they're 5-9. There's 7 teams in the league right now. Top 4 teams make it. They're in the 6th spot, so they're going to have to do some climbing to get up there. They already have 3 expansion teams lined up for next year, so it'll be up to 10 teams, assuming they don't lose any. San Diego is one of the teams. They have one of the worst attendance. Seems to be a trend in San Diego. Ironically, another team's Las Vegas. They have the other worst attendance. But Columbus has been averaging about 7,000 fans a game. Omaha's the top one. They're like the volleyball capital of the country. They've been averaging over 10,000 a game.
What state is Omaha in? Kansas?
Nebraska.
Nebraska. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they
one of those states.
They've been averaging over 10,000 a game. They had that crazy game, the University of Nebraska, that they played in the Cornhuskers football stadium and had over 92,000 people in it for a volleyball game.
That's insane.
Yeah, that happened, I think, around when our team got announced. So I was like, that's fucking nuts. And you should look at the videos of it. It sounds corny, but it's true. And I don't give 2 shits about Nebraska, and I didn't care about volleyball at this point. And I got chills watching it because it was so ridiculous seeing something like that.
92.
Yeah.
That's so many people.
But Columbus plays their next game Friday, April 12th, 7 o'clock. It'll be the first nationally televised game for them on CBS Sports Network.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty crazy, right?
Getting on TV.
Yeah. And every game is on YouTube, which usually with leagues like this that are like that, the YouTube broadcasts are like a stationary camera and real shitty.
Yeah.
But it's way too professional. They have announcers that are really good. The cameras are top quality. It's all seemed way too well done, but hopefully that'll lead to something that'll be sustainable.
Yeah, transfer over to actual television.
Yeah.
Which apparently they already have. So.
Yeah.
Huh. It's interesting. I would never have thought that there'd be a professional women's volleyball league in the United States.
I'm with you.
Yeah, that's crazy. Interesting.
I think I told you who owns Columbus's team, right?
Maybe?
Joe Burrow's parents are
yeah.
at like every game too. They were in the row in front of us at one of the games.
Joe Burrow at one of the games?
Yeah,
too?
the first one.
What a legend. Love Joe Burrow.
So that's all I have for volleyball. Like I said, I learned a lot from watching it, but it's still not like I know enough to break it down or anything.
It's a fun sport. Like
yeah.
I mean, I don't know all the rules, but from what I've watched, and I know beach volleyball is a little bit different than on a gym floor, but it's a fun sport. There's always something happening, and
yeah,
it's easy to follow. I feel like it's not a confusing sport. So
yeah,
fast paced. So you don't have to sit there for 5 hours. It's probably done in an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 to 2.5 hours, depending. They do. First to win 3 sets, and each set is 25 points.
Yeah.
And you have to win by 2. So they can drag out, but it depends how competitive the game is.
Yeah. Because, I mean, win 25-15 or
Yeah.
something like that. But it's a fun sport. I like watching it when the Olympics are on. So
Yeah, we need to get you to a game then, because the energy is super high, and they play a nationwide arena, which is already crazy in itself. That they play where the Blue Jackets play, but I think they're smart. They only use a lower bowl, so even if there's 7,000 people in there, it feels a lot more full because everybody's right next to each other. So hopefully it'll grow into something more. I think, unfortunately, I feel like it'll be like a lot of early leagues, even if it succeeds. I just talked about how I don't like when teams leave. But some of these games, like San Diego and Las Vegas, it literally looks there's like 1,000 people in a massive arena. Like, I don't know. Even if you want to keep them there, I don't know how long you can support something like that.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, I think maybe kind of thing where they pick the successful markets to keep the league around.
That's definitely probably what will happen. Kind of like indoor football.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's still going, though.
Yeah.
There's a couple leagues out there.
None here, though, sadly.
Yeah, and it was definitely a good time when it was here.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I guess we'll see. Definitely want to check it out at some point.
All right. We'll make it happen. That takes us to basketball.
All right. Assuming you're going to talk about the Cavs.
A little bit. Like I said, basketball is the sport I follow the least, so you probably have even more input.
So I'm going to start with college basketball because last night UConn won.
The
national title. Mm-hmm. I don't think a lot of people are surprised by this because they dominated. They won almost every single tournament game by almost 30 points.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was expecting them to win. I just don't think anybody else was better, and just exactly how it went.
Yeah.
Overall, the tournament I thought was fun though. I don't know how much you watched, but
I won't lie, I only saw bits and pieces because Ohio State didn't make it, and I didn't even do a bracket this year. So,
oh man,
yeah,
I my bracket was gone in the first day. I think I mentioned that on another episode.
Mm-hmm.
But NC State was the biggest Cinderella team.
Yeah,
this year.
definitely.
They're the 11 seed. They're 18-14 in the regular season, so they definitely weren't going to make it unless they won their conference title. They won 5 games in a row to win the conference title, and they went all the way to the Final Four.
Yeah.
Very impressive run, and they're fun to watch, too. Really fun team to watch.
Yeah, I did. I was seeing the scores, so not just saying that, like, yep, I bet I did. I knew what was happening. I just didn't watch it.
Yeah. But they have one of their star players, DJ Burns. I don't know how much you've seen about him, but he's 6'9", 270, plays center.
Oh, I have seen. Yeah, I've seen videos. Yeah.
Definitely won't make the NBA just because how the NBA plays now. It's a lot of, you got to be able to shoot. You have to be able to move quickly. But if this was the 90s, he'd be in the NBA.
Yeah.
Because he's a tough player and all post, but has really good feet and can move and just get rebounds and passes really well from the post. And I thought it was funny because Nikola Jokic mentioned him because they asked him about Burns, and he was like, "Oh, he reminds me of me." And I was like, "Yeah, actually." Like watching them now, Jokic is much better at like dribbling and passing and shooting threes. Burns, I don't think can shoot a three, but the post play was the main thing that you could compare their games to. So I'm just like, maybe the Nuggets are just like, maybe he goes undrafted and the Nuggets just kind of steal him and he just learns from Jokic and he could be good. But I like his attitude too. He's a likable guy. Kind of soft-spoken, but definitely was fun to watch them in the tournament.
Very nice.
But yeah, so UConn's champions though, and I'm glad Purdue didn't win.
Purdue do.
Yeah, I really hate Purdue. Have since they've been hyped up last year. I don't really like Zach Edey either. I know a lot of people love him. He's 7'3" or something.
Yeah.
He's not going to make it in the NBA either because he can't shoot, and he's kind of slow too.
Yeah.
And you can bully him, and he can't dribble, so he doesn't add a lot of value. It's kind of like Taco Fall.
Yeah.
Where Taco Fall is like 7'6", but couldn't shoot, and the only thing he really added was rebounding and blocking, and it's not where the NBA's at anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the champion for college basketball. I forget who won the women's. I didn't even pay attention.
It was. Shit. Is that the game that?
Was it South Carolina? Yeah, South Carolina.
Yeah, 'cause they beat Iowa, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really pay attention to the women's tournament. I watched maybe 2 games.
Yeah, I didn't. I saw highlights with it. That was about
Yeah.
it.
Once Ohio State was out, I was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I did watch the NIT more than I ever have this year, just because the Buckeyes were in it, and they sadly lost to Georgia.
Yep.
And Seton Hall won the entire NIT.
Yeah, I saw that.
Over Indiana State. Indiana State probably should have made March Madness, but they lost their conference tournament to Drake. They were like 30-4 on the regular season, so they had a really good season, but their conference was so weak that they're like, you got to win the championship to get in. But yeah, so NIT's done, college basketball's done. One of the big stories, though, with college basketball, Bronny James
that one
declared for the NBA draft, which he didn't play that much this past year in general. He averaged like 4.5 points per game, and he's like keeping his college eligibility, which I don't really understand completely.
Yeah, me either, because it's not the same in the NFL. Once you do it, you're locked in.
Yeah, so I can almost guarantee he's not getting drafted unless some team is like, I want to take a chance on Bronny, which, I mean, maybe he just falls in the Lakers' lap and they're just like,
I was gonna say, I feel like that's the most likely scenario, somebody doing it for marketing reasons, which obviously the team that makes most sense is the Lakers.
Yeah. So maybe the Lakers have some second-round pick, and they're just like, we'll just use it on Bronny, and then he can play with LeBron, and LeBron can retire. But I don't want to talk about this too much, but I do want to talk about LeBron in general, because everyone debates, like, you know, is he better than Jordan?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So I got some stats. LeBron's finals record is 4-6, which that's good. Like, making the finals 10 times is ridiculous. That just doesn't happen in any sport.
Yeah.
It's very rare. So he's 4-6 in the finals, 8 consecutive finals appearances, which is even more impressive if your team's going 8 times in a row. And then some other stats for him, he's averaged 25 points or more in his career every single season except his rookie year. He averaged 22 points in his rookie year. And he's always shot almost 50% from the field, which is ridiculous as well. And this year, I think he's 40 now, 40 years old, 39, 40. This year has been even more impressive when you look at LeBron James. He's played 68 games, and we're almost at the end of the season, but he's almost played all the games that he's been able to. He's averaged 35 minutes per game, which is insane for someone that age. He's averaging 25 points per game again, so that's crazy that he's 39 and doing that. But he's shooting 53.6% from the field, and then a career high 41% from 3, which is very impressive for LeBron. Because if you watch LeBron when he started in the league, he did not shoot threes at all. He was a post player, pretty much, and he could dribble, and his physical like prowess was just intimidating. But now he's like evolving his game as well. He plays smarter. He's really good at passing. He's averaging almost 9 assists per game, and then 7 rebounds a game. So LeBron is still playing at such a high level. And if you look at even like Michael Jordan wasn't even playing that great when he was 39. He's still playing well, but it wasn't the same. But then the Lakers, you know, they have LeBron. Can they win a title this year? I'm not sure. But they are 45-33, 8th in the West, but they're 9-1 in their last 10 games. And then they're 14-7 since the All-Star break. But the question is, does LeBron need another title to pass Jordan, or is he already there?
Oh God, this is this is one I could see both arguments, because I don't know if there is a right answer, is because the leagues are so different now. So I think it's really hard to judge it. Like if we look at baseball records 10 years from now, I feel like it's going to be so unfair to even say like Ohtani's better than Alex Rodriguez or something, because his stats should be insanely better, because we just talked about every advantage he made for scoring changes.
Right.
So I feel like, I don't know, for me it's like a different era that's hard. I don't know if I can tell which one's better. And these are the two they're two of the most well-known basketball players, but they are the two that I probably know the best as well, because when I did love basketball, I used to love the Bulls because of Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And then I like the Cavaliers as my actual team, so LeBron, obviously. But, yeah, I don't know. I can see both sides of it, but I think that's the thing that makes it hardest, just how different the games are now.
And, yeah, even with, Jordan, that era, they were not shooting threes as much as they are now. I think LeBron's impressive because he's not exactly from this era of basketball where it's all three-pointers.
Yeah.
He came from the time before, like with Kobe and that era, where it wasn't as much as the shooting threes. And his game has evolved with it. He's changed with the NBA, which I think is very impressive.
That's fair.
Jordan's finals record is better than LeBron's. He won 6 titles. I think 6-0. I think
so.
6
yeah.
times, 6 wins.
If I remember right.
Either way, both are very good players. And
yeah,
you see on social media, LeBron gets a lot of hate for some reason. Like, there's a lot of people that just hate LeBron James. But I think overall, like, as a person, he's not like he's likable. He's not like a horrible person or anything. So yeah, I definitely think he's a top 10 player in the NBA all time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like, easily.
Yeah.
You could even probably put him at least in the top 5, I think, because then you got Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and Bill Russell and all these guys. But just looking at, LeBron's close to retiring, so just looking at his career as a whole so far, he's very impressive.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't think he needs another finals to be talked about with Jordan and those guys. I think he's already there.
Yeah.
There's nothing else he needs to do. He could retire tomorrow, and he's one of the greatest basketball players ever.
No, I agree.
So I think this season he is having a really good season for the age he's at, and just the fact that he's having career highs still is insane, because prime LeBron was something else.
Oh yeah,
especially on Cleveland, and then when he was at the Heat, he was even maybe better. Well, no, he had more of a team with the Heat, but the one finals where it was basically LeBron and a bunch of bums, and he just carried the Cavs on his back straight to the finals, was probably one of the most impressive runs by LeBron James.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit.
No, I hear you.
But yeah, I definitely think he's top 10, top 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think the hate for him is extreme. I think a lot of it is because it's social and political issues. So whenever you do that, you're bound to get strong reactions either way. Overall, I think he seems really likable. I do disagree with some stuff. And I feel like he's I don't think it's just because I disagree. I think some stuff he's really hypocritical or contradicts himself about. I think that's where it gets annoying for me, not because I disagree, but it seems like you're not consistent with yourself. But even then, like I said, I just said how I think overall he seems likable. But that's where I lose me a little bit, but not because, like I said, I don't agree with the social or political views. I think that's where the extreme stuff comes from.
Yeah, I could see that.
But I also grew up thinking that Michael Jordan was like the best guy ever, and from everything I've heard and all accounts, he seems like a massive asshole, which is a letdown to figure out.
I've heard that too, quite a bit actually. I just think, LeBron has done some good things though outside of basketball, like his whole school in Akron that sends kids to college and stuff like that. So I think overall, like, he doesn't get involved in like scandals, and like he's not raping women like Deshaun Watson, or he's not doing that stuff. He has his family, and he plays basketball, and most of the time he's keeping himself out of. He's never involved in stuff like that.
Yeah. So
I think that changes my opinion on him too. I think he's just living his life and having a good time playing basketball.
You ever see, this sounds really random, but you ever see the movie Trainwreck with Bill Hader and Amy Schumer?
I have not.
You should watch it. Amy Schumer, I think, gets too much hate. I think she's fine, whatever. Don't think she's as funny as people thought, and I don't think she's as terrible as people think now. Bill Hader, I think, is fucking hilarious. But the funniest person in the movie is LeBron James. He absolutely kills it. When I saw his name was in there, I was like, what the fuck? You're really just going to put the giant name in there just to get people to watch it? But
Yeah.
he was, I think, the funniest part of it. He's so good.
Yeah, that's great. Another one of my favorite players. This is just random, but Shaq is one of my favorite players.
Yeah.
I also really love his. He's a sports analyst now.
Yeah.
But I just like watching the TNT guys. Like their post game show. It's Charles Barkley.
Yeah.
Kenny the Jet Smith. Shaquille O'Neal, and I'm trying to think of the other guy. I don't know. There's another guy too.
Yeah, so that's why I don't know.
Ernie Johnson is his
Okay.
name. Just like really, they really dissect the game really well, and you can actually learn a lot watching them. But they just have a really good post game show, and I really like Shaq quite a bit.
Yeah.
Shaq's always doing a commercial or doing something, but he's a fun guy. To watch and not annoying like Stephen A. Smith.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
That's my least favorite sports analyst crew is the ESPN one for NBA. It's like Stephen A. Smith and then some other guy, Kendrick Perkins and Candace Parker. I can't stand it. Like I just mute it at halftime.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are so annoying. But yeah, so you want to go with the Cavs or you want me to go on my little Celtics thing?
Oh, you can do that because, like I said, basketball is the thing I pay attention to least, so I'll probably just kind of generically go over it, and you could go deeper into it.
So the Celtics this year it's historic for Boston, honestly, if you look at their record. They're 62-16 and 14.5 games ahead of second place in the Eastern Conference. The second place team is the Bucks. They're 47-30. So
yeah,
just that is insane when you look at that stat. The Celtics are 18-4 since the All-Star break, and then the second closest team record-wise with them is the Nuggets, who are 8 games back. So they've kind of just propelled past everybody.
Yeah,
and have won 18 games by 20 points or more, and they've won 4 games by 50. Which is insane. that doesn't happen very often. Their first overall in defensive rating, which is great as well, especially in an era of offense. And they're second in offense, and they're averaging 120.8 points per game, which is crazy. Basketball, it used to be 100 was like the 105 was high. There's some Celtics games they're scoring 155 points and winning by 50 on top of it. So it's ridiculous how good their offense is. They shoot a lot of threes. So they shoot 42 threes a game, and they shoot 40% from 3. And if you're shooting that many threes and the other team's not hitting threes, they're just going to blow them out. Their scoring leaders... And all this stuff matters because I'm going to compare them to the 2008 Celtics, who won a title. So that's why I'm listing all these stats.
I hear you.
Jaylen Brown averages 23.3 points per game, and he's shooting 50% from the field. Which, if you're shooting 50% from the field, you're doing great. Like LeBron's done it his whole career. There's some guys that are shooting 20% from the field and suck. So Jaylen Brown's their second leading scorer. Probably should have done first. But first is Jason Tatum. Not a surprise.
Yeah.
He averages 27 points per game, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. So that's superstar level, easily. And then their third leading scorer is Porzingis, who scores 20 points per game, averages 8 rebounds. The crazy thing is, though, they've had so many other guys have games where they're scoring 30. It's not just... these 3. Their whole team is good. They're role players. They have 7 different guys that average like 10 points a game and have scored 30. So that's like, usually with basketball, you have your superstars, but then there's always like these wild cards. So that when you get to the finals, maybe game 1, this role player scores 5, but then game 6, they score 30 and help you win the series. And that, like, you need that throughout the playoffs because you don't just want it to be on 3 guys' shoulders. So, I compared this to the 2008 Celtics. The role players, if you're not a basketball fan, you won't know who these guys are, but I'm a Celtics fan, so I know them all. So I'm not going to list them all, but Al Horford, Drew Holiday, and Derek White, I think, are probably the biggest three because they've all.
I know them.
Drew Holiday has been an all-star. Al Horford was an all-star, like in the height of his career. He's older, and Derek White has turned into an all-star. He's averaging 16 points a game. So they're two guards, and they're great defensively too. So Drew Holiday and Derek White, top 10 defensive guards in the league. So the 2008 Celtics, their record was 66-16. The current Celtics are 62-16.
Mm-hmm.
So could definitely hit that same record. Just 4 games left, I think. Yeah, there's 4 games left, so they could win the next 4 and be the same record. In the first round, the Celtics beat they beat the Lakers in the finals, which is significant because the Lakers were great. So this Celtics team in 2008, they also shot 40% from 3, which is good. They didn't shoot as many threes, only 19 threes per game. But if you're shooting 40%, that's still insane. Their scoring leaders were Paul Pierce, not surprised, but he averaged 19.6 per game. But then Garnett averaged 18, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, and then Ray Allen had averaged 18 as well. So you kind of have 3 guys that are averaging around 20, and then you had Rondo, who was kind of that Derek White spot, averaging 12 points per game and 6 assists. And then you had all these role players like Kendrick Perkins, Eddie House, Tony Allen, Glenn Davis, and Sam Cassell. So all of that giant information that I just gave, I think that this Celtics team is very comparable to another championship Celtics team. Like, the stats almost line up like perfectly. So I think this is the year. I think this is the year that the Celtics break the drought, because the last championship was 2008. And I feel like they've been so close the past couple years, but it's been like they just need another player to push them over the edge. And I think they got that in Porzingis, who's averaging 20, and then you got Tatum and Brown, who are both averaging in the 20s, and then you have all these role guys. So, yeah, I think it's the year.
Do you think there's any way they do something that another New England team did where they're so successful that they're not ready to lose in the postseason, being the Patriots going undefeated? I know it's different in basketball because the Patriots only had to lose 1 game to lose it, but I feel like in basketball, if you go on a streak where you lose a couple, then you only have so much wiggle room.
Yeah, so I'm going to say no to that, because this Celtics team, so Jason Tatum's 26 now, came into the league when he was 19. If you look at a lot of superstars, they don't win a title till they're 27 or 28. Like Kevin Durant, even LeBron, it took him forever. But Tatum's been there. So I guess they could definitely lose. I mean, another team like the Nuggets, it would be a concern because the Nuggets won last year and still have that same roster. But I think because Tatum and Brown have both been to the playoffs so many times, they have the experience, and now they have like a really good team around them. I think they won't let down. The only way I could see them like actually not even making it out of the East would be if Tatum or Brown were injured. So that would be my only concern, but I don't think there's anyone in the East that can beat them. The West, the Nuggets are good, and they have a couple other teams that are at like that 52, 53 win level. So I think the finals will be harder, but as far as breezing through the East, I don't think there's anyone that can even come close to beating them.
It's pretty crazy. I'm sure you know this, but I was looking at their home and away. They have 16 losses, but only 3 of them are at home. Yeah. I know they have home field advantage or home court advantage, but you obviously have to play on the road as well. So, but they have a winning record there as well. I'm not saying that means they're going to lose, but
yeah. And the thing is so they have the best record in the league too, and no one's like they secured that, they locked that in. They're not going to play. They're going to play 4 games at home every series. and playoff time in Boston it's hard to beat them in Boston.
Well, they switch back and forth though, right? You mean they would if they have to?
Well, yeah. So and they automatically start a series at home too.
Yeah, but
so
then you go 2, right? So, yeah.
But like if it has to go to 7, they automatically get Game 7 at home, and in the NBA that's such a big advantage.
Yeah. You said no team from the East could do it. I think you're forgetting about the Cleveland Cavaliers, though. 46 and 33. Rude. No, I wish I didn't have to like a Cleveland team. It's sad that's my only choice. Like I said, I grew up a Bulls fan, but that was definitely because I was young and Michael Jordan.
The Bulls are not watchable anymore, so.
I'd say basketball is my least watched sport, so it's hard to have secondary teams, but I still have that for the Bulls, but it's weird because Michael Jordan's long gone. I figured out he seems like not a great person, and the Bulls are also a rival of the Cavaliers, so it's a little weird.
Yeah.
And then it'd be the Nuggets just because my connection in Denver, but I'm not doing I would have said it before they won championship and wasn't like excited. You don't see me wearing any Nuggets gear. I was just like, oh, that's cool. They got it. Yeah. It's just I'd rather them win than some other teams. I was really affected by it, so I'm not going to act that just because they're good.
I do really like the Nuggets, though, from a basketball fan perspective. Jokic is so fun to watch.
Yeah.
If the Celtics play them, obviously I'm not going with them, but if the Celtics were somehow to get knocked out, I want Jokic to win another title.
I say from what I've seen, he seems like a good person too, not a douchebag. Maybe I haven't seen enough of him.
He's so laid back and basketball's like his job basically. I don't know if you saw like the clip after they won the finals, but it was now we get to go home, talking about his horses and all that stuff. So yeah, he's a really likable guy and he's a generational talent. Like there's not a lot of centers that can dribble like he can, and like if you watch the Nuggets, their whole offense just runs through Jokic.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, every possession starts with the ball in his hands, and then if he doesn't have a shot, he's always passing, and he's insane. Like the amount of talent that he has is crazy for a 7-foot. His size too. He moves he dribbles like a point guard. It's insane. So he's so fun to watch. Like if you don't watch basketball and like you want to watch a really good player, definitely Jokic is someone that I would suggest.
Or the 46 and 33 Cavaliers are eventual champions. And Cleveland's known for championships. We all know that.
They got the one.
Well, just the city in general, not just in basketball.
Browns too.
Yeah.
The 6 NFL championships that they won in 1950.
Game and a half out of first place. What do you think the odds are they could actually do that? In division, obviously.
Oh, in their division?
Mm-hmm.
The Bucks have been terrible lately. The Bucks lost to the Raptors, who are one of the worst teams in the league. They lost to, I want to say, the Hornets as well, which are one of the worst teams in the league. And I think the Spurs, and they've lost like 4 straight because they lost to the Knicks as well. So, not impossible.
Yeah, we have a game in hand on them as well, but there's just so few games left. The
thing with NBA, though, too, is the division doesn't really matter anymore. They changed it so that, because in the past you could win your division and I think you got 1 through 6 at least. Now you can win your division and you can still be an 8 seed.
Oh, really?
So it's really weird how that works now.
Yeah.
But it used to be you were guaranteed a 1 through 6 spot, but they changed the rule.
Interesting.
Not a really big fan of the rule, but if they're only a game and a half out from the Bucks, though, that means they could get the 2 seed, which would be huge for them. Because I think the 2 you would play. Actually, they would probably play Miami, so that might not be a good thing.
Hey, they have a better record than Miami. They can do it, and they're Cleveland. Remember, they're known for championships.
At one point in the season, the Cavs were one of the hottest teams in the league.
Yeah.
And then after the All-Star break, they kind of fizzled out.
Yeah. I did know that actually, and hopefully that's a sign of it happens now instead of last year like it did in the playoffs. They were not one of the best teams, but they were good, and then fucking train wreck once the postseason got there.
Yeah, and looking at who they actually. So I thought they were higher than what I was thinking. There's so few games separating 2 through 6, really. Right now they would play the Knicks again in the first round, and sorry, Cleveland fans, but I would pick the Knicks to win that series.
You don't mean that. You gotta remember, Cleveland's known for championships. I've always said that.
See, the hope would be is the Cavs beat the Knicks, and then they play the Celtics, and then we all go down to Cleveland.
I'm down.
Have a good time.
Think it's an oxymoron to say have a good time in Cleveland, but we could try.
We could definitely try.
Especially when you combine that with the fucking terrible people come from Boston and their accents. That's like a mecca for just terribleness.
I'd be safe. I'd be in all Celtics gear. It'd be everybody else that's not safe.
I think I want to beat up both fan bases. I wouldn't know what to do, and I'm part of one of them. Anything else basketball you want to touch on? Feel free.
So I think the East is pretty straightforward this year. I think it's Boston's to lose, basically. The West is a whole bunch of anyone could win because they were comparing this. I saw this. This was a post, but in 2000, I think 10 years ago, 2014, every single playoff team in the West was almost like 10 games above 500, and it's looking like the same this year. The 10 seed Warriors are 43-35.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the Lakers are 11 games above 500, but they're the 9 seed. So, and like if you look at the West, like if I'm the like first seed, which right now it's tied for Timberwolves and Nuggets, and I gotta play the freaking Lakers with LeBron James in the first round. That's not fun. That's not a good time.
It's like the NFC versus the AFC.
Yeah, like it's like every series would be insane, and they got the whole play-in tournament now, so you could end up with the Lakers or Warriors as an 8 seed, and then you get the Pelicans or Kings as your 7. Like that's ridiculous. Because, and then like the 6 seed, they have Kevin Durant. The Suns, they have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal. They have Kevin Durant's won a title, and he's sitting there at the 6th spot. And then you go up to the Mavericks, and they have Luka and Kyrie Irving, who are playing like some of their best basketball right now. Like if I'm the Clippers, I'm like, crap, I don't want to play Luka and Kyrie. The Mavericks are 9-1 in their last 10, and they've kind of gone through adversity throughout the season. So I've been watching them a little bit more lately, but Kyrie and Luka have chemistry, and that's a problem. Like, I would not want to play those two in a playoff series because they can both drop 50 any night. And you just need superstars. If you have 2 of them, you can make a run. But in the West, I would say the Nuggets are the favorite, but not a lock, just because how crazy the standings are. Because even the Timberwolves, I was not expecting them to be 54 and 24. They do have Mike Conley, former Buckeye. He's been playing great. Been playing in the league for a long time. He's playing really well, and they have a fun team too. So West is wild, as they call it, the Wild West. Always has been. But yeah, I'd say Nuggets and Celtics are my finals pick. We'll kind of see as that evolves as we get into playoff season. But that's my finals pick. I like the Thunder, too. I like the Thunder a lot. They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. You probably don't know who he is.
So that's one names I haven't recognized so far.
He's averaging, I want to say 34 points a game.
Oh, really?
He carries that team. But they have a really young team, too. They have a lot of players that are 23 or younger. So I could see them doing a lot of damage in the playoffs, too.
Yeah.
So it should be a fun playoffs coming up, and we have like a week till the play in and then first round. So it's approaching. So
if the Celtics get upset, especially early, are you gonna be able to do a podcast and talk about it? Or yeah. Okay.
I watch everybody, so obviously Celtics are priority, but I watch almost every series at least, unless there's
I
like a
got you.
series that I really hate and don't care about. But especially in the West, I watch every series because they're always so tightly contested.
Yeah, I hear you.
But yeah, I'll definitely be able to still talk about the NBA because if the Celtics get knocked out, I'm just gonna shift over to the Nuggets and talk about Jokic.
Yeah, I got you.
But yeah,
Anything else?
I don't think so. As you can see, basketball is like my favorite sport, or one of them.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of football stuff to talk about, but those two are definitely my favorites.
Is football number one?
See, I always go back and forth. I feel like
Really?
it's tied. Like, I love both. Basketball is probably my favorite to play also and watch. I've always played, like, basketball's always been one of my favorite sports.
Mm-hmm.
Football, same thing. I mean, playing football is so fun, and
yeah.
I've always watched football, like, since I was probably 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Always watching it. And during football season, I watch any game possible. Even if it's not the Bengals, I like Sunday Night Football. I watch every game. Even if there's a random 4 o'clock game on, I watch that. So it's the same for basketball. I'll watch anybody, but
Yeah.
I have my favorites.
No, I got you.
So yeah,
Anything else basketball? That's it.
I think that's it.
All right. This isn't a normal thing I'm going to talk about, but lacrosse, we had our pro team here, the Ohio Machine.
Rest in peace.
That's
Save
right.
The machine.
That's right. The league started up, been around for quite a few years now. The PLL, which was a touring model, but they based it in cities coming this season. And I was really hoping Columbus would be one of them. They did voting. Columbus was one of the finalists, but did not get it. There's 8 teams. Denver's one of them, which they were in the league that the Machine was in. So I'll root for them, but as soon as the Machine come, hopefully come. That's what I'm getting at here is that I might talk about lacrosse here and there, but I don't really care until we hopefully get a team. I'll be rooting for Denver, but it'll just be like watching games that they're on, not like I'm dedicated to it or anything.
Yeah.
And Denver was a team that knocked us out of the championship, and then we knocked them out of the championship the next year when they're in the same league. So there's also a weird connection there that makes it weird to root for them. But
Yeah.
yeah, hoping we get a team. Though lacrosse is an even more extreme example of what I was talking about soccer. I despise lacrosse, and then because I feel like being around people growing up, everybody was playing lacrosse. Not everybody, but most people that I knew growing up playing lacrosse were douchebags that were doing it to impress girls, not because they care about the sport. And I feel like if you're in it that long, you're doing it because you care about it. And I met so many people from the Machine that were not only nice for people that are professional athletes, but like super nice people in general. And the sport was super fun, but that made it a lot easier to like people in it, seem like they were actual people and not massive assholes. So, real hoping we get a team back, but we'll see. Should we get to this pizza? I almost ended it without doing it. It's been sitting in front of us for so long.
We gotta talk about this.
You want to do it first or no?
I'll let you go first, and then I'll add my thoughts.
Okay. I think you might be a lot lower than me, but we'll see, especially how much it sat here. And this might sound extreme, especially for our first review, but I'm going to go 10.
Whoa.
Like I said, 10 for me doesn't mean that there can't be a better one. It's just the top tier of pizza. And I get classics as much as any other place. And I was telling you on the way here, I think one of the things they do the best is consistency, which is an issue for pizza places. I've had amazing pizza from a place, and then next time like, this is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very important part of pizza, which it's not completely fair the way we do reviews because sometimes we only have one pizza, so it's a little unfair. So I'm also kind of judging from knowing the pizza and knowing how it is. I think one of your criticisms probably be that's like so light sauce. I probably would have even put a little more on there, but that is how we ordered it.
Man, yeah.
Yeah, it came out of the gates there.
That's my first complaint though.
Oh,
The
yeah?
sauce.
Is it? I thought it would be because I was waiting for me.
10. I'll give my number at the end. I'm gonna dissect this slice. Actually, I know it's cold. just gotta remind myself.
No, I hear you. There's some classic fans that will be watching now, so better be ready to give an awful score.
Okay, it's not awful.
I'm joking. Give
Biggest
whatever you want.
complaint is the sauce. A little light. I love the crunch when I bite, like the crunch, the cheese like crunches, which is interesting. The texture's good. It's not soggy. Good crust. I need a little more sauce though. Just a little bit, like not a ton. Like I don't want it like sitting in just sauce, but
Yeah, that's the
just a
downside doing
little
light sauce. And it's hard to complain because if they do it, then like I can't be like, you didn't put much on here because it's exactly what I asked for.
Yeah,
But
light
there's
sauce.
like,
Yeah, I'm gonna give it like a 7.5. It's
okay,
not the greatest pizza I've ever had, but I would definitely eat an entire pizza though.
no, I
It was
got you.
good. I think the crust is a little too thin for me. I like a little bit thicker crust.
Okay,
But, overall, yeah, 7.5.
no, that's fair. Like I said, part of me is trying to not intentionally rate it higher, but rate it like I actually would. And like I said, this is a consistently top tier pizza for me, and that's why I consider a 10. Not that there can never be anything better. I mean, there can't be, but just 10 would be a top tier pizza to me.
See, I'm really curious about their pepperoni. Is it like, have you seen their pepperoni?
Yes,
Is it smaller pepperonis or is it like bigger
I
pepperonis?
think they're smaller if I remember right.
Kind of like Donato's.
Yeah,
Okay. Because I don't know, maybe pepperoni would add a little bit to the score.
yeah, I hear you.
I'm a pepperoni guy typically. I mean, I like cheese. Cheese used to be the only pizza I would eat, and then I evolved and
Declined.
yeah. But yeah, so yeah, 7.5. I think that's a solid score.
Yeah, no, I got you. I know there'll be some people watching that have had the pepperoni, so you let Cal know because I don't eat pepperoni, so I don't know for sure.
Yeah, let me know if the pepperoni's really good
Yeah,
because I do love pepperoni.
all right. Anything else you want to say before we get out here?
My podcast is starting back up. I haven't done an episode in like 2 months, but I recorded yesterday, and I'm talking about Supergirl's origins and powers and some key storylines in her like comic book history. So that'll be up on Friday if you guys want to check it out. It's the Franchise Den. I also have like 100 episodes or something.
Yeah.
You could also backtrack and listen to. So yeah, check it out.
Hell yeah. Do you think Taylor Swift could have been a good Supergirl?
I could see that.
Yeah, I know it sounds funny coming from me, but I actually think that'd be a good choice. And
Yeah,
she's
no,
an actress as well, so
She definitely looks the part for
Yeah.
sure. I don't know if I've seen her act though.
I think she's actually good. The first thing she did was, I don't even think it was bad. People mocked it like crazy, but I think it's what she was supposed to be. She played a dumb ditzy blonde in like a romantic comedy, but I was like, I feel like that's what they cast her as. She went over the top with it. I think that's what it was, but.
Yeah.
She's been in a couple more serious things. She's never played a huge role, so I guess you can't tell for sure. But the more serious stuff she's done, I thought she did well in. She's in that really interesting movie. It had a crazy cast. Christian Bale was in it. Came out like a year or two ago. Let me look it up.
I'm trying to think of Christian Bale movies.
There's a ton of big names in them. Just blanking. I thought it was a really good movie though.
I think the last Christian Bale thing I saw was Thor: Love and Thunder.
Oh yeah. Let me find it here. It's like right here too, but I can't quite pull it. All right, here. Oh damn! I should trust myself. Amsterdam. I thought there was something else in the title.
Yeah, that movie.
Did you see it or no?
No, I didn't.
No.
I remember when the trailer dropped and stuff though. It wasn't a big movie. It wasn't advertised very much, but I heard good things about it.
Yeah, I liked it, and I'm surprised it wasn't advertised more because there's a crazy ass cast for it.
Yeah. Did you see the new cat? I mean, this has been a couple months ago, but who they casted as Supergirl?
Yeah, I don't remember though.
I'm trying to think. She's in House of the Dragon. I think her first name's Millie, and then I want to say her last name's like Alcock or something.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, but I think she looks like Supergirl. and she's a young actress, but she did really well in House of the Dragon. So
Okay.
I think overall the casting for DC stuff has been good with the new universe coming up.
Yeah.
So kind of excited for it.
I was sad to see they canceled Brightburn 2. I don't know if you saw the first one, but
Yeah, Brightburn.
that was cool.
It was good. Yeah. Unique concept for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, I was sad that they canceled that, but James Gunn's gotta focus on Superman, I guess.
I think it's really weird that Peacemaker, I don't know if you've watched that show. I think it's excellent.
I started watching it like 2 weeks ago, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah. I'm on episode 3, I think.
Did you hear, this isn't a spoiler, he said that the first season's not going to be canon to the DC universe, but the second one will. I was like, that's fucking weird. So this just didn't happen, but the second season that is connected to this did happen.
I didn't see him say that, but that's odd.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of is that he wasn't running it by then, so now he has a different idea. But I feel like with that being your show, you would just work that into your idea, even if I'm like, that seems weird.
Yeah, that's a little odd. I'm not really sure exactly what DC has planned besides, like, there's not like, it's going to be a lot of origin stories. It's kind of like how Marvel started out. So I don't know if it's actually going to be successful, just because I think the superhero genre is kind of running its course at this point. Yeah,
definitely, that's true. He gives me more hope than anyone, and I'm not even a DC hater. I told you before that I think they actually have some really good movies, but I think if anybody's going to make it successful, it's going to be him. The only things I question so far, business-wise, probably makes sense to cancel Brightburn 2, but selfishly and creatively, I wanted that.
Yeah.
I think the Peacemaker thing is really fucking weird. I don't think the Joker's connected to the universe at all.
No, and same with the Batman. It's a separate thing. And the Joker, this next one's going to be a musical.
That's
so
what that's what I was getting at. I don't think it's his decision, but the last Joker I thought was fucking amazing. I don't know if you saw it, but
yeah, it's one of my favorite. I actually have the poster from the movie theater.
Oh, really?
Just hanging in my room. Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, but I was cool when they announced the sequel, and I've only been worried since I've heard more about it. Maybe it'll surprise me. I heard it's going to be 15 cover songs in there, too, so I'm picturing they're going to do like some crazy versions of it. But I feel like they're, without seeing it, I could be totally wrong, but it seems like they're banking off that one scene where he did the dance number.
Yeah.
But I think that worked because it's so off-putting for what the movie was. I don't think it worked because it was a cool musical part. So
yeah, no.
I don't think doing that throughout a whole movie makes sense.
I don't think a Joker musical is something that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I don't really like musicals in general.
No, me either.
Yeah, okay. So we're on the same page with that. I think it's going to suck.
Yeah, I have
want
that
it to
feeling.
Be just as good as the first one, but a musical, really?
Yeah, the only thing gives me hope it's like all the same people I know. Lady Gaga's in it now as Harley Quinn, but
which is odd.
Yeah, I agree.
Margot Robbie is so good.
Yeah,
as Harley Quinn.
The only thing that gives me hope, though, aside from her and the musical part, is that it's all the same people. So even though it sounds terrible on paper, I'm hoping that if all of them commit to it, that they see something that is better than what you envision on paper, because it doesn't sound good.
Yeah, no. So yeah, DC. I mean, I think this year, 2024, there's only one superhero film, and it's Deadpool. Which, thank goodness, because I like Deadpool stuff. But overall, I think that as far as superhero movies, we're kind of just here.
Yeah.
Everything could have stopped after Endgame if they wanted to. Because I think I've only liked probably a couple of the Marvel movies that have come out since Endgame.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I hear. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. But everyone should follow, like, subscribe, and we'll be back at a later date.